YouTube. What's up, guys? How's everyone doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for checking out the stream. If you're new, hello. My name's Aaron. This is our weekly podcast recording. Josh, what's up, man?
Yo, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, man?
Doing all right.
Good. I need to turn down this music.
Away.
Where is that at? You think as many streams as I've done, I'd have this figured out by now, but nope.
Never.
Yeah, I'm trying. So I realized that somewhere, and YouTube, you guys can attest to this. Somewhere along the lines, when my mic is plugged in, I increase the volume on my PC, and it increased the volume of the music on stream. So I didn't realize it. But for the past 2 weeks, the intro music that I've been playing just before we get started has been super loud.
Oh no.
So I'm gonna check out and see if it's obnoxiously loud again. Yeah, it is actually kind of loud still again. I'm playing chiller music tonight, but it's a little loud still. Sorry, YouTube. We're figuring it out. I'm playing chiller music tonight, but it's a little loud.
Good music though.
Thank you. Yeah, we're vibing.
We're vibing.
By the way, if you are watching the stream on replay, just want to say thank you for doing that, and hit that like button. It helps us out a bunch, and it's free. So unless you just
Literally
hate
costs
us,
you nothing.
then
If you listen,
Which,
that's fine. Maybe you're. Listen, we get it. We're gonna
Right,
say another
we
thing
get
about
it.
the Bears, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Listen, hate clicks are still clicks.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, Josh. Johnny, what's up?
Hey, guys.
You got your football. Hang on, where'd mine go?
Oh, yeah. We all have our.
Grab your guitar, Josh. That's
Yeah.
More-
I got a new
correct.
football at Meyer, and it's really good.
Hey!
It's
we all got our
nice.
football.
NFL size. It's super grippy, so I feel like I can actually throw it as opposed to my previous football. So
Listen, I
Very
don't want to
good.
brag, but if you need me to, I can go grab my Tebow football from the office.
did you get
When Team Tebow came to speak a few weeks ago at DTS, he did sign footballs for all of us. So I do have it's
Oh,
in the
that's cool.
office, but
That's
I do
awesome.
have a Tebow football.
That's
It
yeah,
is.
that definitely beats what we've got going on right now.
It is 3 loops and a number 15,
Hey, that's
which I get at this point. He's signed enough.
yeah,
I
that's
would
also
be. I'm
that's
not.
just
it's
a
not
signatures
legible.
work.
yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm ready. YouTube, I'm ready. We're pumped up.
Let's go.
You know we got some energy when both Johnny and I come prepared with footballs in hand. We're ready
Oh my
to
goodness.
yell about college
I'm
football.
ready to
Non-controversial
throw
things.
them at AP voters.
Oh boy.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, I wasn't sure if that was gonna be what you were following, but I'm like, that's probably worthy of a main segment because we can all
Yeah.
yell about that.
I'm furious. But that's okay. It's fine. Everything's fine. I'm fine. My name's Johnny and I'm okay.
Whew.
All right. Are there specific teams or just whoever you guys want to bring up?
Yeah,
when
I
it
was
comes
thinking
to the
whoever wanted to bring
college
up
side of it.
undefeated teams, obviously maybe
Right,
outside of
right.
Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, but even Tennessee,
Right.
TCU is interesting.
Oh, that's right. I
thought-
forget. Yeah.
There's a
I
variety
thought
of
Tennessee on that onside kick. After that, I'm like, Tennessee's gonna hurt me again. They're gonna hurt me. Well, we'll get into it later. Tennessee is just one of those teams. I need to make a list of don't ever trust them list, no matter what you think. Tennessee deserves to be first on that list, along with Iowa State. Those two schools have brought nothing but pain. Just pain.
Yeah, I'm good. We can get started if you guys are ready. Any questions on the show notes? I know they're kind of light this week.
I'm
I
good.
figured we'd just kind of figure it out as we go. So
Yeah.
Oh, I should probably stop playing bass.
no, you're good. I should probably
That's
stop
the
playing
after
background
show.
music here.
I will start recording right now. I am recording.
Hey,
I'm also recording.
Go right there. Thank you.
All right, cool.
Let me pull up the thing that allows me to record.
Yeah.
No, Don't sign me out as we're about to record. Please don't do that. We back?
You good, Josh?
We're back. Yes. Yeah, it signed me
Cool.
out of Google Drive literally at the exact moment I would prefer it to not.
Of course it did. Why wouldn't it do it at that time? At that
That's the fun
exact
time.
moment.
At that exact moment. Real-time effects and VSTs. Ooh, let's skip this. All right, I'm good to go.
Sweet. All right. Sweet. I'll get us started. Welcome to the Fifth and Goal podcast. My name is Aaron. I'm joined once again by my good friends Josh and Jonny. We are back for another episode. It is episode 81. And guys, it's good to be back with you both. Josh, what's going on, man? How was your week?
Guys, my week's been good. I've had a lot of conversations with so many Big 12 fans. There's no bit there. I've basically lived right next to a Baylor fan. I don't know if I told you guys. I feel like I told you guys this on stream, maybe off stream. But the guy I am now rooming with, I don't think I have told you. He is, in fact, a fan of that one team up north.
Oh, interesting.
Now, here's the thing. Grew up in
We're
SoCal.
all rooming with fans.
Yeah,
from
how
team up
did
north.
that
Right?
happen?
Actually, how did this? Yeah,
What the
guys,
heck?
what happened?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
Rivalries bred by proximity.
Yeah, it's true, Johnny.
Here it
It's
is.
true.
Except that my roommate is from California,
Oh.
and his father didn't go to Michigan either. He just saw them beat Notre Dame once back in the 90s, and now
What a poor life choice.
Yeah, seriously.
listen.
What
They
a-
go to the big house. They go to the big house at least once a year for games. Like they were at least committed to the bit.
Okay. Yeah.
But,
I'm not
yeah.
saying he's not a fan, just what a poor life choice.
It's so weird. Like,
Oof.
listen, I also don't like Notre Dame in the 90s, but
Right.
I'm not.
It's when
Or
you
in the
needed
2020s while we're at it. But
a mentor in
Forever.
your life to speak up and say, hey,
no.
you're going down a dark path.
Yeah.
There's so many fun California teams to follow. Fresno State,
Yeah.
and that, yeah.
Hey now, San Diego State deserves to
Oh,
be
you know
mentioned
what?
there
That's
too.
San Diego State. I'll give you San Diego State.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good, Josh. I'm glad your week was good. Did you end up at a not barbecue, a tailgate? That's what I'm trying to think of. Did you end up at a
that
SMU tailgate this weekend at all?
Yeah, I did that funny thing where I talk about it on the podcast and then immediately forget all about it.
Oh, that's
And so it's like it's 11 and I see the text of like, or the tweets of like, oh yeah, it's they're
doing it.
they're
It's the
doing it.
battle
They're
for
sold
the
out.
iron skillet,
It's
Josh.
the best, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I am here on my couch translating.
Is that like
Greek.
a rule?
And
I feel like that should
Like-
be a rule for the rivalry. Nothing can be made at the tailgate without
Oh,
using an
Yeah.
iron skillet. An iron skillet must be utilized in the cooking of all dishes for that game.
it's not unsafe to be down here, but I can guarantee you a bunch of alumni and a bunch of college students with cast iron skillets. I can guarantee you that is not going to turn out well. It's not gonna.
You're just inviting
There's probably
an
no
all
ban on them,
skillet brawl.
but you cannot at the university be like, "Hey guys, bring your favorite lodge cast iron skillets,
Yeah.
and get $10 off," because that's their version of nickel beer night.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know how that went. Well, that's okay, Josh. You did stay safe and probably from the comfort of your own couch. You enjoyed hopefully some
much.
football mixed in with all the homework. Johnny, I know you enjoyed lots of football because part of it, I was there firsthand for game day and some bacon and eggs and pancakes. So thank you for breakfast on Saturday. That was a great way to start off the week. But how was your week?
It was good. It was infuriating. It was frustrating. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is what a football weekend always is.
Yeah, I kind of echo it. That's the way my week felt as well. It was, I mean, you had the highs and lows, right? The highs, Ohio State just put 52 on Wisconsin. I mean, it was shades of 2014 in terms of how easily that offense moved the ball. that's kind of how that was like the end of Saturday night. Sunday was just the usual Lions disappointment. That game was so sad. The Lions double-digit leads twice and cannot figure out a way to beat Minnesota. Cannot figure out a way to get a road win. They haven't had a road win since 2020, so I'm still waiting for that to happen. I was so excited, guys. The Lions looked like they were going to be 2-1 heading back home to face Seattle. I'm like, dang, there's a real chance Detroit could go 3-1, and that's what I get for looking ahead of or really getting excited at all for this team.
This is what happens when you enjoy your team.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So shame on me for trying to have hope that the Lions would not do Lions things, but they did. But overall, great week. It is fall weather, guys, at least in Ohio. Josh, I can't attest for what Dallas is like, but
it was really nice, and it was 75 this morning, so it felt chilly.
Yeah, I mean, it's been super nice fall weather here. Just my absolute favorite. Fall's in the air. It's great. So anyways, that reminds me. So anytime
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, go ahead.
It's going to be fall.
Oh, good.
We're going to get down to 55 on Thursday as a low.
Oh, hey, that's fall though. That's great.
Up to 80, but
that's okay.
We'll take it.
That's like winter.
Maybe I can
Dallas,
pull out. I was gonna say maybe I can pull out a sweater.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right. Well, speaking of all of that college football. We're really into the thick of it now in college football, right? Because we had kind of full-on conference schedules for most everybody. I know there was a handful of non-conference games. We mentioned the SMU-TCU rivalry. There were some others. I had the chance to cover Cincinnati, Indiana. I'll talk about that more later if there's time. That was a good game and a reminder that Cincinnati is still a really good team despite what they lost to the NFL draft. But I think today we're going to react to some teams that are either real or fake because there are a lot of 4-0 teams. I'm looking at these AP Top 25 rankings, which, by the way, AP Top 25 is garbage, even more garbage than it was a week ago.
Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Josh, are you going to defend the AP poll?
Oh, no, never. Yeah, hey, guys. Yeah, no, I'm totally going to defend the AP poll. Hold on, I have every team here. I have every team listed here. Give me a second. Let me see how bad this is. Yeah, definitely the undefeated Kansas is worse than 3-1, but 16 ranked Baylor. 3-1, but 25th ranked Kansas State. I guess undefeated Oklahoma State, I'll give them that. Or 3-1, very bad loss. Oklahoma. But Kansas, no.
Yeah. Now, Kansas would be 26th, essentially, in the AP poll with 125 votes. Cincinnati would actually be 27th if you look at it that way. I agree. There's many, many issues with the AP Top 25. The most egregious is that Kansas is not ranked. Josh, thank you for pointing that out. That, to me, is the most egregious.
It's a great game.
I agree, Oklahoma had not a great showing against Kansas State, losing again to the Wildcats somehow. I don't know how Kansas State does it. They just find a way every year, just the nemesis of Oklahoma. Look, I understand that you have to have a starting point to these rankings, right? And Johnny, we'll let you dive into this because I know you're about to go ham. So let me prepare the runway for you here. I know you have to have a starting point, right? Like you thought, and I was one of the people, I thought Oklahoma was going to have a great year. They still might. I had them in my playoff.
Yeah. But they lose to Kansas State every other year.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they could run the table, win the Big 12. They're probably still in the playoff if they do that, especially if Kansas State has a good year, which they are off to a good start outside of that weird loss to Tulane, which now it's just what the heck happened there. But at some point in the rankings, your play on the field has to matter. Your resume has to matter. Mm-hmm. Who has Oklahoma beaten that makes you feel like, oh yeah, for sure, that team belongs in the top 25? And that might sound crazy because you're talking about Oklahoma, but if you take the name Kansas and you replace it with any team from the SEC, if Missouri started 4-0, guess where Missouri's at? And now partially that's the schedule, but regardless, if Missouri plays Kansas's schedule, Missouri is in the top 20 at least by name recognition alone. It's because we're talking about Kansas, who has wins over Houston and West Virginia. Those are far better wins. Yeah, thank you, Josh. At West Virginia, those are far better wins than some of the teams we're seeing on this list that are ranked in front of them. Now, we're debating about something that ultimately probably won't matter, but it does matter because the AP poll does frame people's mindsets throughout the college football season. So, Johnny, your thoughts on this terrible poll. If you follow us on Instagram, and you should, you'll see that we've got our own top 25 poll. We highly recommend that you pay attention to that one and take that one as the official top 25. But Jonny, I know you are very, very upset with the AP Top 25. We all support you in this anger, in this righteous anger. So tell us what we need to hear.
Yeah, so you guys are throwing out, hypothetical examples of SEC teams being undefeated. I'll give you a non-hypothetical. Ole Miss is ranked 14th in the poll.
Yeah.
14th. Let me read to you the 4 teams that Ole Miss has beaten, and you tell me if this sounds better than Kansas's resume beating I know it's Duke, but an undefeated Duke team when they came to Lawrence.
Power 5.
They went on the road and beat West Virginia. They went on the road and beat Houston. Tell me if any of these wins are better than any of those ones. Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Tulsa. And Tulsa's an 8-point win, which they struggled mightily to win this last week. Troy is a 28-10 win. Georgia Tech, you might be, that's half decent. They just fired their athletic director and coach this morning.
Georgia Tech's terrible.
They are awful.
Yep.
That is your prime example of, listen, I know you're hearing it from Midwesterners, so of course we're going to believe in an SEC bias. This is real, though. It's real because the poll affects the college football rankings, and that's where everyone's, well, don't worry, these aren't real. It doesn't matter.
They are.
They do, because if you listen to the head of the College Football Playoff Committee, they reference rankings from much earlier in the season with key wins for these teams. So it does matter. Listen, I wish they didn't. I don't have a problem with preseason polls existing. I have a problem with people hanging on to them. When you lose early in the season, I have a problem with people saying, oh my gosh, they dropped 12 spots. Well, of course they should. They're 0-1.
Yeah.
You could argue a team ranked 5th shouldn't be ranked after week 1 losing. That might be a little bit extreme based on how it goes. Oregon did not deserve to be ranked after week 1. Yeah. They did not deserve to be. They earned it back by beating Washington State and by beating BYU. So you're not inaccurate for your week-to-week rankings, for not having a team ranked one week and then ranked the next one, or taking big leaps or big drops. You're not wrong about that at times when it just means the team got a key win, they earned the spot. Ranking is projection of what you – it's not projection of what you think they will be. It's based on the eye test and what they've earned. Now, Oklahoma before this week passed the eye test. They're certainly still a top 25 team. I'm not saying Oklahoma shouldn't be ranked. I actually really love that they dropped them all the way to 18th. It's early in the season. If you lose week 9, especially to another ranked opponent, you drop 2 or 3 spots. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. But early in the season, when you lose, it is significant. We don't have a lot of data points. That is okay. It is this obsession with trying to prove yourself right in your original preseason poll that is hurting the AP poll voters. Their obsession with, well, we had Texas A&M ranked 6th preseason, so we have to keep them there. They're ranked 17th. Guys, they should be 1-3. Yeah. They are awful. I'm sorry. You'll see in our rankings.
They just lost their top wide receiver too.
Yeah. Anaya Smith, who has between him and A-Chain are basically the only offense the Aggies have. And they have another difficult test coming up with Mississippi State. And don't be surprised if they actually get tripped up by the worst team of the 3 that they've just played. Don't be surprised by that at all. They should have lost both of those. If any number of wild things don't happen, they lose both of those games. Now, they won. So I do have them in the top 25 because you win. It counts the same. But you watch that team, and they do not look remotely like a top 10 team, not even top 15. AP has them at 17. I think that is just, you're not watching. You're not watching the games. Listen, I would love to have every ranked undefeated team ranked. Did you watch Syracuse play Virginia on Friday night? They looked awful.
Yeah.
And Now, Syracuse might be better than that. They don't pass the eye test right now. So I don't have Syracuse ranked either. It's not a matter of all of these things. Kansas is tied with Ohio State for the most touchdowns scored on offense so far this season. They are tied. So if you don't think they're worthy of a top 25 ranking, you haven't watched the Jayhawks. So that is the frustration that you see of a lot of college football fans, a lot of fans who are watching the game, who care about these things. Aaron, you're absolutely right. It's brand recognition. If you swapped out it's because the name Kansas is next to that schedule and that record. If it's an SEC team, I'd argue even if it's a Big Ten team, like you see Minnesota there. I know they just whooped Michigan State, but before that, they had one of the worst strength of schedules in the country, and Michigan State might not be very good. Minnesota's now ranked. I have some problems here. And it's okay. Like, we're not going to, if you have Oregon at 15 and AP has them 13th, whatever, that's where it really doesn't matter. It definitely matters, though, having Ole Miss at 14, when I would argue maybe 23, 24, 22. Like, I'm not saying they shouldn't be ranked. They're probably a quality opponent, but they've done nothing to earn it. Ole Miss might be a top 25 team, but prove that to me. With what data, with what you've seen on the field, can you tell me they're a 14th in the country? They've played no one, and they lost a ton from last year.
Yeah.
It's not even a returning team. So that's the problems here. And I know Kansas's schedule's backloaded. They're probably not going to be ranked by the end of the year. Probably not. But as of right now, which is what matters, right now, not the future, not the preseason, right now, Kansas should be ranked.
Yeah. And I mean, Ole Miss is a great example because everyone's like, well, it's Ole Miss and they're 4-0. Why would they not be ranked at the top 15? That doesn't seem fair. Well, let them earn it. They play Kentucky this week. If they're 20th and they beat Kentucky, then jump them up in the top 10. That's fine.
Absolutely.
And I'm with you. I think these.
But Aaron, the key problem there is the word jump. Re-rank them each week.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the college football playoff says that they do each week. Re-rank them. Yeah. This is not a rise and fall. It's not a jump. This is, okay, Kentucky. I mean, Ole Miss, you finally played a real team and you beat them. Great. We know you're good now. I'll throw you up to number 9. That's just an arbitrary number, but there shouldn't be a problem with that.
Yeah. We
haven't seen teams really play anyone yet. It's not the NFL. You're playing a bunch of, schools that you're paying $1 million and a half to come get whooped by you. Like it's not the same. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, that kind of wraps up what I was going to say on the topic. And we'll get into it more as we talk about what teams we think are real and what teams we think are fake. I think that will kind of establish where we think some of these teams will be ranked. Before we do that, Josh, I feel like, unfortunately, we have to break out one of our favorite websites again. But
I already checked it today.
Yeah, if you missed it. And look, again, we don't really enjoy doing this, but the reality is Texas did lose on the road against, I think, a decent Texas Tech team, that's at least overachieving to this point to where we thought they would be to begin the year. This was a team that we had picked dead last in the Big 12 as far as our projections. So good for them. But Josh,
great for them.
The age-old question is Texas back? What do you have for us today?
Yeah, I would love to open up our discussion of fake teams with Texas.
It's not really their fault, but you're right.
It's not their fault.
Yeah.
Listen, we weren't sure if they were going to be back yet until, 2-2. It's bad. Their losses are close. Mm-hmm. One loss is to Alabama, who I would say they're not a fake team, but we are not 100% sold on them, especially after that performance in Austin. And at Texas Tech, by 3 points. 3 points.
Yep, in overtime, yep.
There is nothing crazy bad about Texas, but 2 losses, you're automatically done. They could go, let's see. West Virginia now looks a lot more winnable. At Oklahoma is tossed up. We're not entirely sure. It's winnable.
Yeah.
Iowa State,
especially if Quinn
Oklahoma
Ewers is back,
State.
because that's part of this
Yeah.
equation. They lose Quinn Ewers against Alabama, but if he's
Exactly.
back, then does that
back, they
change
might-
things?
yeah.
We'll find out.
You still got to go to at Kansas State and at Oklahoma State, which
Mm-hmm.
and at this point they're hosting TCU and they're at. Listen, the
Yeah.
Big 12, we don't know at this point. We honestly don't know.
Yes.
This our preseason prediction of their schedule. We're like, wait a second, Kansas is good now.
Yeah.
maybe. So
And they
I
beat
don't
Texas
even
when they're
know.
horrible, so who knows?
Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, Josh,
Texas
you are
is never gonna host them
absolutely
again.
right about the Big 12, though. Your thoughts are
Nuts.
exactly mine. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was gonna say none of us predicted that Kansas would be undefeated at this stage.
Yeah,
I thought
And,
3-1. At best,
the
3-1.
And I will say they're still allowing a lot more points. To your credit, I was comparing them against Ohio State since we have pretty much the same points scored overall. Where did it go? Here we go. Right now, Ohio State has scored 195 points to date, and Kansas is one behind at 194. However, Ohio State is only allowed 64 points versus Kansas's 109. So obviously, they are 4-0 and still outscoring opponents, which is what you want to do if you want to go undefeated. That's the idea. So I will say we still need to see them. I got to double check Kansas' schedule. I'm not saying they're fake,
It's
but I am.
backloaded.
yeah.
It's backloaded. And especially now that we know the Big 12 is what it is. It's been
Josh, to your
Listen,
point,
Kansas
like I
Duke
always
football was sold out. I don't even know what this year is anymore.
is amazing. That was
It's
amazing.
so good. It really
I always
is.
list out all the key games a team has left. And I update it throughout the year, of course, because, clearly we're right and wrong based on the preseason. And I'm, not prideful enough to assume that a team that I had at the beginning of the season, Michigan State, for instance, wipe them off the board,
Yeah.
at least right now. I'll add them back if they somehow fix it, but I doubt it. With the Big 12, it felt like I was writing down almost every team on the schedule in conference play for these teams. Like, we thought Texas Tech might be terrible. They're fine. TCU is still 3-0. Kansas is 4-0. Those are three of the bottom of what we expected. And listen, they still could be. Like Texas, Josh, actually, I think Texas still has a good shot, maybe even to make the Big 12 title game.
Yeah.
Purely because the Big 12 is the most exciting conference. I don't see how a team almost gets out of there to the playoff. I don't think any of us picked a Big 12 team to get out of there to the playoff. And now I feel even more strongly about it just because, I mean, how? There's not an easy
Is Oklahoma
game.
State the only prayer? I know Oklahoma can salvage things still, and I know Baylor
it's really
could too,
Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
It's really Oklahoma State is probably, and their defense has reverted back. It feels like without Jim Knowles, back to we have to outscore people. There's just not an easy game on the schedule. The worst team so far appears to be West Virginia, but they even went to Blacksburg and won on the road on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So with JT Daniels, they're not terrible. Every game is winnable. Every game is losable in the Big 12 this year. So hang on to your hats, fellas, your cowboy hats, and enjoy the ride. Like, you're just going to have some wild outcomes that you don't expect in the Big 12. I think Kansas State beating Oklahoma is just the beginning.
Yeah, salvage is the wrong word. Let me start this over. Take this Big 12 season and keep it close to your heart, because what we've grown to love about the Big 12 is going away soon. Oklahoma and Texas are leaving for the SEC. We learned this week that one of the casualties of that move is that Bedlam, the famous and historic rivalry between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, is also going away. This isn't anything new. I mean, the Texas A&M rivalry went away when Texas A&M left for the SEC. So, look, you kind of expected something like this to happen, but keep this season close to your heart, especially the way some of these teams are playing. The fact that Kansas is this good right now. Kansas State's upset over Oklahoma yet again. I don't know how Kansas State does this every year, but they find a way. just take the season and just give it a big old hug if you're a Big 12 fan or you like watching these teams, because it's going to be weird. Like, nothing wrong with Cincinnati, BYU, UCF, all these teams coming in the Big 12 this year.
It'll be fine.
It's going to, in Houston, it's going to be fine. And clearly Cincinnati is right there. They're going to be a contender, I think, right away in the Big 12. And heck, BYU, Houston, actually really all 4 of those teams could be. But just it's going to be different. So take this season, enjoy it, savor it. Yeah, that's what I have to say about the Big 12. All right, we've talked it up. We actually now need to get into the discussion of some real or fake teams. So just kind of to get these teams out of the way. Yes, do each of these teams have weaknesses? Yes, but are they all real? I think yes. Would you guys nod and agree? Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, at least for the purpose of this discussion, we probably can just say they're real and move on to some other teams.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Minor questions, but there's nothing to say not real at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Even though Georgia, not a great showing against Kent State.
Not a great show. But also, I mean, to be fair, not to be fair to Georgia, but Ohio State has had many games like that. I mean, I would say I remember, even 2014 games were like, okay, guys, we should have. That was definitely a wider margin winnable game.
Yeah,
and to escape is not great, but. Yeah, it's sometimes you just. I was on the college football Reddit, college football subreddits, and it was like Georgia was basically just like when you hit auto resolve, in like chess or like a war game.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Good for Kent State somehow hanging on to Georgia after that tour of just nightmares against all the teams they played. So good for Kent State. That's a real team in the MAC if they're. If they're able to bounce back. Anyways, all right, let's move into some undefeated teams that are in the top 10 or so, even top 15. And we'll just maybe quick hit these and say real or fake. Let's start with Michigan, who struggled against Maryland at home in the Big Ten. This is the first real opponent they've faced. Guys, real or fake Michigan? I'll start. I'm going to say real because Blake Corum. Blake Corum is arguably one of the best running backs in the country. He's shown it. His stats are insane. And I think Michigan will be okay, even though they travel to Iowa next week. I'm going to say real, but that was a wake-up call for a team that had played cupcakes and then actually faced a real opponent.
Real for the same reasons. I think they were almost just shocked that they faced a team that didn't just roll over, especially after the kickoff is off the face mask of the return man and they score in 5 seconds to go up a touchdown. I think that might have almost been the worst thing that could have happened to Michigan in the game. I think they almost expected Maryland then to play like Hawaii and UConn and Colorado State, which are 3 of the worst teams in the country. So I think not traveling from home, playing 3 of the worst teams, I think Michigan's absolutely real. But I think they need a wake-up call against a game Maryland team. I was impressed by Blake Corum, of course, definitely top 5 in my Heisman right now. And I would say Maryland also has the capability of being a top 25 team with as long as Talia keeps those mistakes down, which he did even in that game, gave his team a chance to win. And I was impressed I came away from that game impressed with Maryland, but I think Michigan's real. Interesting test going to Kinnick Stadium always.
Here's and I will say we can joke about Iowa's offense, which always deserves to be mocked. They got one of the best defenses in the Big Ten right now, if not the country. I haven't seen the national rankings, but they've only allowed, I believe, 23 points this season.
Yep.
Like, y'all better hope Michigan's real because they're not gonna. I mean, you better hope that their defense is on par because they're not getting much. As I say, they're not being able to score take a new take, or you just cut it. Yeah, you better hope that their offense is efficient. Or sorry, take 3, or just again, none of this. It doesn't matter. You better hope that their defense is on point because they're not getting many points scored with this.
No,
in Kinnick Stadium.
Did you guys see the stat that I shared with you? The number 1 scoring defense in the country, Iowa. The worst scoring offense in the country, Iowa. That's not a take. That's not an opinion. That is factual.
Yes. You guys want to hear another stat for you guys.
Every other team is better than Iowa's offense. Every other team. They're 3-1.
Look, And I know this offense is worse than some of the ones they've had in the past, but dang it, Iowa finds a way to win 8 or 9 games. Guess what they've done? Guess what their record is against top 5 teams at home over the last few years? They are 5-1. Now, I know this game's being played in the middle of the day, and that's a shame. Shame on Fox for having Big Noon their big deal. This should be a night game in Kinnick Stadium, but it's still a really tough place to play no matter how bad that Iowa offense is. And I know Iowa State found a way to win there, and that was a rare thing for Iowa State. I think Michigan will be okay, and heck, maybe they even find a way to open it up against, yes, a truly bad Iowa offense. But don't be surprised if this is like a 7-3 game at halftime. Iowa finds a way to just win 8 or 9 games, and that's just why Kirk Ferentz keeps his job, because, I mean, it's unbelievable. So who knows? Maybe Michigan wins by 30. That was a lot of words to say Michigan's real, but that's a fascinating matchup next week.
I think
Iowa
real,
but not truly tested yet.
They were up on Rutgers at half 17-3. It's a pick 6 and a fumble return for a touchdown. The game is 3-3.
Yep.
If not for their defense. And honestly, the defense understands I can't just get an interception. I can't just get the fumble. I must return it to the end zone or we're not scoring.
Just in case.
Yes. A quick reminder, we do stream our show on YouTube if you ever want to join us live like Curtis did. Curtis gave us the very helpful reminder that in week 1, Iowa scored 7 points in the form of 2 safeties and a field goal. So it is truly, and I don't have the numbers pulled up right now, but truly this defense, the Iowa defense, could outscore the Iowa offense by the end of the year. This is why Iowa was ranked as high as number 2 last year, because they would get 3 or 4 interceptions, run a couple of them back, and they were like 6-0. And then, anyways, enough on Iowa. I don't know how we really rabbit trailed. We're gonna have to pick up the pace a little bit. So we'll rapid fire this, and even if you guys don't have a thought on some of these teams, that's okay. We can kind of just roll through. But all right, Clemson.
Real quick, is Ohio State? So sorry, is Ohio State hosting Iowa, or are we going there?
They are hosting Iowa. Yes.
Okay.
Praise God.
We'll take it.
Yeah, my thoughts.
I get 2017 flashbacks every now and then.
Yeah. All right. Clemson wins a shootout against Wake Forest. That's the worst Clemson's defense has looked in a while.
Ooh.
Guys concerned about Clemson, real or fake?
Fake.
Ooh.
Fake.
I'm gonna say real, because I think they lose. I think they could still get to the college football playoff. Do they do any? It depends on how you define it. Do they do anything once they reach the playoff? I'm gonna say no, but I think they can get there, because I think the ACC at the end of the day is going to be kind of meh. So that's why.
That's a fair take.
Yeah. I'm not too high on them. I think they're going to drop, even though they're hosting. I think they're going to drop NC State.
Okay. Yeah, very possible.
I mean, everything else is winnable in their schedule.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to drop NC State.
Okay.
So for me, that means I don't say not extremely fake, but fake enough.
Yeah. Fake to where a loss against NC State, as you're talking about, Josh, could mean that they don't get back to the ACC championship game for the second year in a row, which would be pretty crazy for Clemson. That is where College Game Day is going. That is going to be our pick of the week. So more on that in a bit. So there's Clemson. All right. Next undefeated team, USC, avoids a potentially slippery slope against Oregon State. They win. USC, real or fake? I'm going to say real.
Real.
Okay. USC, real. Josh nodding in agreement as well. Yep. All right.
I'm so upset. I'm
care
so
how they
over
won.
his brisket from a few years ago. So
yeah, that's true. That's especially insulting to you, Josh. That is especially insulting.
We should just leave it at that.
We should.
I've never cooked a brisket in my life, and on sight, I knew that thing was trash.
You win in Corvallis this season. Nobody's giving Oregon State enough credit.
Yeah.
Like you go to Corvallis. That's been a house of horrors for USC. It doesn't matter how it happened.
Right.
They won. Like, and I love this tweet this week, and I'll keep it just real short. Every conference needs that team. Yes. That's a trip to West Lafayette, that trip to Manhattan, Kansas, that trip to Corvallis. That is just annoying, and you somehow lose and struggle every time, no matter how bad that team is, no matter how good you are. It is just pulling teeth, painful. So every conference needs that. Corvallis is that in the Pac-12. So USC is absolutely real. I was very impressed with the defense carrying them. I didn't know if that was possible. So impressed.
Yeah,
real.
I'm in agreement with you guys. A showdown against Utah at Utah 2 weeks from now, I think, or a week and a half, really, when you
Oregon State, Utah this week.
Yes. Yeah. Utah better not look past Oregon State before they play USC. You are absolutely right. All right. Next. And I'm kind of just running down this in top 25 AP order, even though that poll is fake. Tennessee 4-0. They win against Florida. They played Rocky Top about 10 billion times. Tennessee, real or fake?
Johnny, I'll let you go.
Against all of my head knowledge, real. My heart says real. Tennessee.
No.
I thought Tennessee was going to. I thought Tennessee was going to hurt me once again. They are one of those teams that, for some reason, I just have a soft spot for them, and I thought they were going to blow it to Florida again somehow at the end of the game when they go for it on 4th down instead of kicking a field goal to go up 14. They don't get it, and I'm like, what have you done? You are now going to somehow lose a la Browns week 2. So I was just happy that they escaped that. Hendon Hooker's legit, though, and that's why I say real with Tennessee. Man doesn't turn the ball over and is dynamic. Rare combination, easily a Heisman contender. Tennessee's legit. They can take it. They're one of the few teams in the SEC that could take out Georgia or Alabama, and they play them both.
And that's why I'm going to say they're fake. And now let me explain, because I like this Tennessee team, and I don't want to say that. I'm saying fake in terms of they're ranked number 8 in the AP poll, and Johnny, you've got them similarly ranked. They're fake in my mind because they're not going to stay there. Here's who they play in the next 5 weeks. LSU, Alabama, UT Martin, that'll be a win. Kentucky, at Georgia. They're at LSU, they're at Georgia. I think they lose 2 of those games. Now, granted, that's 10-2, so for them, that's a good year, and maybe that does. I'll say 9-3. I'll say they find a way to go 9-3 because that's what Tennessee does usually. I hope I'm wrong because you're right. Hendon Hooker is a baller. His stats are nutty. His touchdown to interception ratio in the last however many games, it's 44-2. It's absolutely insane, and he should be top of people's Heisman's, or at least in towards the top. That being said, that is a brutal schedule. Now, can they find a way to get past that? We'll see. But I'm going to say they're fake in terms of a top 10 finish. I think this team goes 9-3.
There can only ever be one orange team that's back, and it's going to be this one. I'm saying real.
Yeah, I like it.
I think they'll still drop. They'll drop one. They're not taking Alabama and Georgia.
But that's a massive success.
If they do,
whew.
I'll buy a jersey.
Okay.
Hey, 10-2 for Tennessee would be really good.
That's an outstanding season.
Listen, that's the Texas standard for back.
I mean, guys, if they somehow, I don't think they'll do this, but if they beat Kentucky and Georgia, lose to Alabama, they win the East.
Yeah.
If things fall right, they could even beat Georgia, lose to Kentucky, and they might still get the East.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they might need a little bit of help from Kentucky in that situation also to beat Georgia, which is probably asking for too much. This is a real team that has the potent offense to actually beat them. I think they're the only team that could beat Georgia or Alabama when Georgia or Alabama is playing a B+ A- game. I truly believe they're the only team who can beat either of those teams when they're not playing bad, because Alabama, it's college football. Georgia, Alabama have a bad day. There's probably a few other teams that sneak in there. But I think Georgia or Alabama could play just fine, and Tennessee plays great and beats them. So I love the Volunteers.
Yeah. That does take us to Kentucky. Kentucky, real or fake? And this is an interesting team. I'm going to say fake. But in the same sense that they're ranked in the top 10, they're not going to stay there. Kentucky's got a really good defense, but they struggle to run the ball. They play down to the level of their competition. That was again seen in their win against Northern Illinois. They find ways to win these games, but at some point when you actually reach the SEC, that's going to bite you. When you host South Carolina, when you host Mississippi State, they're susceptible to losing those kind of games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think they go on the road and they actually are going to beat Ole Miss this season or this year. I said this week. You know what
This
I'm trying to
season,
say.
this year, this week.
I mean, it's all true. I think they're going to be
This
Ole Miss
decade.
this season, this year, this week. And I think they could host South Carolina and lose that game. That's the type of volatility they have. I know their running back situation has been just a mess, and that's one of the reasons why they don't have a rusher over 100 yards this season. If that improves, if they get some guys back from suspension, then maybe that changes some things. But for that reason, I'm saying they're fake, meaning they go 9-3. Still a really good team. Amazing what Mark Stoops has done with this team. Amazing. But I'm gonna say fake for that reason.
I'll go fake also. I just don't see the first round pick Will Levis that people keep telling me about and keep advertising. And whenever the first thing somebody references when it comes to transitioning to the NFL is your height and weight, alarm bells go off in my head. Not because you don't want the prototypical size, doesn't mean you don't want somebody like built like Josh Allen, but his decision making is poor. He's not accurate, and in the last few years, I've been proven wrong that inaccurate quarterbacks in college can't improve on that in the NFL. So I'm not saying he's 100% not going to work. I just don't see it against any quality opponent. For every 2 touchdowns he throws a pick. It's a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I don't love it. The decision making's not good. When Kentucky played Florida, I was not that much more impressed with Will Levis than I was with Richardson. And Richardson has thrown 1 touchdown pass this season. So I really struggle with Will Levis. And if he can actually, against dynamic defenses, like he's going to see it against Georgia, when they disguise things, because he really hasn't faced that yet. When they really disguise things, and Florida showed it a little bit, and he struggled. Georgia has better athletes than Florida. I think he's really going to struggle. He struggled a lot last year. They couldn't do anything on offense. I really don't see that changing. Where I see Tennessee has a puncher's chance, I don't think Kentucky has a prayer to win that game. And play this clip over if Kentucky wins. So
we will. You might see this on Twitter in a few weeks.
Yes.
All right. So here's the deal. We are running out of time. Shocker. So there's plenty of more undefeated teams out there. So I'll leave it up to you guys. If there's any one team that you want to talk about that's either that you really like, that's very real to you, or the opposite, that's very fake. I can start, and I apologize if I'm taking someone's team. Guys, Minnesota is ranked 21. And I think that's a fair placement for them. And Johnny, I need to look at where you got them ranked. That's a fair placement based on who they played.
no, it's good.
But guys,
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, if you didn't know already, the Big Ten West is bad. And Wisconsin's showing against Ohio State showed that it might be worse than we thought. Here's Minnesota's remaining schedule reminder. They are 4-0 at this point. They host Purdue next week, a Purdue team that I thought could be good, has disappointed me so far. At Illinois. At Penn State, which is an intriguing game. That's the whiteout game for Penn
huge.
State. Both teams will
game.
likely be 6-0. It's a huge game. I kind of thought at the beginning of the year, I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like Penn State, picking Minnesota for their whiteout game. I think it was just kind of to boost their record in the whiteout game, which actually hasn't been very good in the Big Ten. That's going to be a very real game, potentially 2 6-0 teams. But then, even if Minnesota drops that game, home against Rutgers, at Nebraska, home against Northwestern, the last 2 teams I mentioned are horrendous. Versus Iowa, we've talked about them. At Wisconsin, who's 2-2, and quite frankly, I think there's a better chance that Paul Chryst gets fired at the end of the season than Wisconsin does turn it around and go 9-3. I think we're talking about, at worst, a 10-2 Minnesota team, assuming health, because that's been a struggle for them in years past. At best, guys, if they find a way somehow to beat Penn State, I'm saying, and I'm with Joel Klatt on this, he's kind of been banging the drum for Minnesota. There's a real possibility looking at this schedule that Minnesota could be 12-0. Do I think they go undefeated? No. I think 11-1. But guys, 11-1 and an opportunity under PJ Fleck to go to a Big Ten championship game, that's awesome. Good for Minnesota. I mean, they've got Ibrahim back at running back for the 10th year, it seems. He's a monster.
He is. Would you like the stats for Ibrahim, Aaron? He is on the Heisman list.
Hit me, yeah.
Like this week, because he has to be after that showing.
Yep.
Mo Ibrahim, 567 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns already through 4 games.
Yeah.
Through 4 games. Like easily
He's good.
Out of all of the running backs that you would be considering right now in the Heisman race, far and above them. And I know Minnesota hasn't played anybody. Like you said, though, Aaron, they don't play really anybody this season other than Penn State. And hey, they're just running it down your throat, and they have a veteran and Tanner Morgan who will beat you with play action and won't lose the game. And in the Big Ten West this year, it's probably all you need.
It is. He was incredibly accurate in their game against Michigan State. He's got, I think it's actually his 6th year. I joked about Ibrahim being there for 10 years. It is actually Morgan's 6th season with Minnesota. So I'm saying a reminder that Minnesota went 10-2 a few seasons ago. I can't remember the name of their offensive coordinator, but that same offensive coordinator is back with Tanner Morgan. So that's working out well. So that's my real team. There's a couple other teams on the list that I would say are potentially fake. Ole Miss comes to mind. I think they're potentially going to get exposed, as you said, Johnny, even though they're hosting Kentucky. We'll see. I would love to be wrong. No ill will against Ole Miss, who's breaking out some interesting helmets against Kentucky. But that's I'll leave it at that because I know we have to move on, and I want to give you guys a chance.
We can move to NFL if you.
That's true. Yeah, Josh. Any other teams that you either really like or dislike? Dislike's an option.
I've been trying, and goodness,
it's also early. To be fair,
we're
a little early in some of these predictions, but
yeah. I mean, I just gotta. Yeah, I was gonna say I need another 2 weeks because I'm all of these teams. I'm like, man, is Arkansas real? But they're at Alabama, or sorry, they're hosting Alabama. Maybe it's Oregon, but I'm like, they still got to go through Utah,
and Washington,
and Washington, and then I'm like, well, maybe Utah, but it's the same schedule. So, I can't tell you. I will say, yeah, exactly.
I think NC State is real. They're my team, but I'll save that for picks of the week.
Sounds good. All right. Well, we could move into NFL real quick. We could do one there because we don't want to completely ignore the NFL. It was a wild week 3, as I mentioned. The Detroit Lions just sad. I would have come on this show and told you the Detroit Lions are real after a win at Minnesota. Again, a home game against Seattle, looking at 3-1. They play the New England Patriots after that. Mac Jones, a really bad high ankle sprain, it looks like. I would think, and maybe still, the schedule looks good for the Lions the next couple weeks, but they lose. I'm not talking about them. They're 1-2, and they will probably continue to fail me, but there are a couple of 3-0 teams. The Miami Dolphins are 3-0, the lone AFC undefeated team. In the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-0, and they are looking really good. And we're recording on a Monday night, as we usually do before Monday Night Football. So we don't know how the Giants are going to fare against the Cowboys, but there is a world where the Giants beat the Cowboys and are 3-0. So we've got some undefeated teams. We've got some notable 2-1 teams that have kind of snuck up on people. Jacksonville, I'm looking at you. Guys, any real or fake teams you guys like to, or you want to put a stamp of approval or disapproval on in the NFL?
Just for posterity's sake, Pittsburgh, fake. Please stop starting Mitch. He did not throw interceptions, which is good. He did not throw touchdowns against the Browns, which is bad. Please put Kenny in. Thank you. That is all.
Yes.
Josh, my question for you is, do you want Kenny in behind that offensive line? Because everybody is
Mitch, stay as long as you need.
And that's what listen, Mitch isn't playing good. Don't hear me saying that. But the larger issue at play in Pittsburgh, and fans don't want to hear this because you always it's the quarterback's fault. It's always because the quarterback is playing brilliantly or because he sucks. There's no in between, no nuance at all. Mitch is not playing well. Part of the reason he's not playing well, and part of the reason Kenny would really struggle, is because they can't run block and they can't pass block at all. I'm a Bengals fan. I can see it because it looks too similar to what I watch in Cincinnati every week with Joe Burrow. Difference is Joe is a special franchise quarterback. We already know that. And that's why I understand wanting to throw Kenny in there and see what he has. But behind that offensive line, it's a little bit of a mess over there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Team I do want to talk about is the other professional team in the state of Pennsylvania, and that's the Eagles. I did think they win the NFC East this year. I did think that they would get the one seed.
You called them a 12-win team this year. Yep.
Really loving that pick right now. Now, even I did not expect Jalen Hurts to take these leaps and bounds this year. Clearly, this dude, and you know what? You knew some of these traits that he had. And this is kind of more what I'm talking about in a college quarterback that you really love to see. I mean, Hurts, you've seen the videos of him like squatting like 600 pounds or so. I mean, the dude's a monster in the weight room. He has all the leadership qualities you could ever want or desire in a quarterback. I mean, the dude is just a workaholic who loves to ball. Like, clearly. He's one of those rare exceptions, though, kind of like a Josh Allen, that somehow in the pros, he's actually improved his accuracy as a quarterback. Like Jalen Hurts, the knock on him at Alabama was always that, man, he's so talented, so gifted. But if he has to sit in the pocket, I don't know if he can actually deliver a strike downfield under good coverage. You saw him against Minnesota just blitz the Vikings, and to back it up the next week against Washington, I see no giving in for the Eagles. I think they're going to keep rolling for a while here. They are legit. Howie Roseman put a great team together. That defensive line with Fletcher Cox and who's the giant from Georgia that they got, Aaron, to put next to him basically, or give Fletcher a breather.
Yeah. Why can't I think of his name?
Is it Davis?
Jordan Davis. Thank you. Yes.
Jordan Davis. I mean, so you have monsters getting to the pass rush. Getting to the passer, stopping the run. You have Slay as a corner. There's not a part of this team I don't like. They have 3 running backs. Yeah. So fantasy owners beware. And the trade for AJ Brown looks brilliant right now. So Jalen Hurts, fantastic. They've put together a brilliant team in a weak NFC. I love the Eagles right now. They look great. So they look even better than I could have ever imagined. And I love to imagine a world where if my Bengals can't make the Super Bowl, we have a Philly-Buffalo Super Bowl. The world may end, but
some cities get burnt down. Probably the winning team, to be honest.
They both burned their cities down when they made it into the playoffs, when they won a playoff game. We obviously witnessed firsthand. We were all in Philly. When they beat the, why am I forgetting? Of course,
beat the Patriots. Yeah.
Easy. Made Tom Brady sad for a little bit. Yep. By the way, we're not a rumor channel. Have you seen how much weight he's been losing these past few weeks?
Yeah,
Tom Brady.
I know part of it's just like, I don't. What's a nice way of putting this? Enhancement surgery, I think. But like his jawline scares me. And I know this guy's probably one of the most healthy players or healthy people on the planet, but it's a little concerning. I know he's got all the money he needs. Sure. Like, do you like whatever? There's a reason, I'm with you, Josh. I understand.
Yes. Anyway, I have nothing. Yeah, that's nothing. We're not a rumor. We're not a rumor mill. But
just creepy jawline. Yes.
Creepy jawline. Yep. He's getting that weird evil guy stare now.
Yep. I completely agree. Still the greatest of all time. All right. I guess I'll say a team that's real, I think. And let me see here. The Jacksonville Jaguars. How about that?
They're real.
Yeah.
They're real.
They basically took the team that Urban Meyer assembled and was too distracted to actually take time and coach and put together. And by the way, of course, it helps when you have as we just talked about the Eagles and the Patriots, when you have Doug Peterson, who has been there, done that, won a Super Bowl, taking over. If they can keep Trevor Lawrence upright, they're going to have a good year in a bad AFC South. And yes, I know the Indianapolis Colts got a badly needed win over the Chiefs, and I still think they're the favorite to win that division. But because the division's so bad, and I know the AFC is really good, but I think Jacksonville could contend. I'm going to say they're real. And I'm excited to talk about Jacksonville. So good for the Jaguars, good for Trevor Lawrence. Excited about that. By the way, the other team that's real, and I don't think this is a surprise, the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson is just insane. Ooh. Look at the numbers that he had in 2019, his MVP year, where I believe he was, how old was he? 20 years old? 19 years? Anyways, ridiculously young in that year. His numbers through 3 weeks are borderline significantly better this year than they were in 2019. It's awesome. I love Lamar Jackson. He bet on himself from a financial standpoint. Talk about betting on yourself and winning. How about Aaron Judge and Lamar Jackson? So far, whoo, they're going to get paid, man. Woo. And they deserve it. They deserve it. So there we go. There's real or fake. And so let us know on Twitter. We'll continue this conversation at Fifth Goal Sports. Let us know the teams that you think are real and fake, and we'd be happy to jump in those discussions to disagree or agree, whatever you say. So, all right, we're gonna find out on Saturday who's real and who's fake, and that's because we've got Clemson hosting NC State. Both teams undefeated. This could very well be an Atlantic Division championship, essentially, in the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's the showdown. Game day's going there. We're picking it, and our current standings are myself with 42, Josh with 41, but Jonny catching up a little bit with 38 because Jonny did his research on the not top 10 and picked New Mexico State to beat Hawaii. They did. We all did our research and picked Kansas to beat Duke, and they did. So there's where our points were coming from last week. This week, we are picking Clemson, NC State. I'm going to pick Clemson. I think they win at home. They have the nation's longest home winning streak, and I think they extended that.
I forgot I haven't picked yet. Ride
with me, Josh.
I'm riding. No, don't worry. I am riding with the Wolfpack.
All right.
I'm not 100%. Whatever I just said about Clemson like a half hour ago. If it was opposite of this, scratch that. I'm still skeptical. I'm less skeptical of NC State.
I like
it. I think everybody's memory, all they're doing is remembering NC State's opening game against East Carolina on the road and how they really should have lost that game.
Yes.
Remember, these are 18 to 22-year-olds. It's unless you're Tanner Morgan, then you're like 25 or something. You're my age. Right. But other than that, you're 18 to 22. It's week one. You see a lot of teams struggle. I would argue Ohio State's not even the same team that played Notre Dame the first week of the season.
Yeah.
There's such a large leap and jump from that game. I think the real game to look at if you're an NC State, if you're looking into NC State, is that game 2 weeks ago where they were able to beat Texas Tech and hold that high-powered offense that you just saw beat Texas to, I believe, 17 points. Now, I know DJ had a great game against Wake Forest, winning in double overtime. That's probably the best game I've seen him play as a quarterback in college. At the same time, extremely concerning on the Clemson defense. You kind of felt like, okay, like no matter what, Clemson's defense will be there. Well, now I'm really concerned, honestly, for the team because I don't expect to get that same play out of DJ, and Wake Forest's defense is nothing special. I don't expect to get that on a consistent basis from him, but I was expecting the consistency from Clemson. Now, all of a sudden, I mean, just the poor number 20. It had like 5 pass interferences for Clemson in that game. I mean, they robbed Wake Forest of more just passing yards in that game just by fouling them. I think the Wolfpack has a great defense that is extremely underrated. I think Leary found a way and understands how to beat Clemson now after beating them last year. I think they do it again, and I think they end that winning streak. I think NC State find a veteran quarterback, a veteran defense. I think this is a much lower scoring game than people think. NC State wins, probably by a field goal, because that's how NC State Clemson always is.
Yeah, should be a good game. I do think it'll be close. I just think Clemson at home is just going to be too much. And with that atmosphere, we'll see. I'd love to be wrong because I'd love to see NC State do what a lot of people thought they could. I had them with 10 wins for the first time in, I believe, since 200003. And you have to go all the way back 20 years ago and one Phillip Rivers. Yes. Phillip Rivers was the quarterback then. Yes. All right. Very good. Well, we'll update you guys next week. I will throw a couple I guess FYIs out there, we'll be picking that's just fantasy baseball. I got my segments mixed up. We'll be picking Major League Baseball playoffs soon. I want to give a quick shout out to the Cleveland Guardians, who came out of nowhere this season. They're the youngest team in Major League Baseball. They just clinched a division. They're headed back to the postseason. Good for the Guardians. That's an awesome story for them. So well done. We will have the playoffs starting. Of course, we have an expanded playoffs this year. So
My goodness.
in about a week and a half, we're going to have 4 wild card best of 3 series underway. That'll be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I believe that starts on October 7th. So if you're a baseball fan, we will be talking about that a little bit more over the next couple weeks. That was one thing I was going to mention. I got my tongue twisted because fantasy football half past Hess will be back next week. They're in Florida. They're actually kind of bracing for a hurricane that is, if you're not aware, and I don't know, again, when you're listening to this, what the status of everything will be, but there's a pretty significant hurricane rolling into Florida and that part of the country. So definitely prayers for Michael and Tyler and everyone in that area. We're praying for safety as that significant weather comes in for everybody there. So please stay safe if you're in that area. Obviously, we're also tracking, the Buccaneers are already moving their practices and we're tracking some of this stuff, some cancellations, but that kind of takes a backseat to everything else. But that's kind of the status there. They'll be back next week. If you missed it, we are all in a fantasy football league together, kind of the 5th and Goal fantasy football league. So they're going to kind of give a recap of how our league has been going. Jonny, sorry in advance. Because
the injury bug has just I've never seen it this early in the season destroy a team.
Yeah. I need CeeDee Lamb to have 8 points tonight, and you'll already know how that went by the time you hear this. But if CeeDee Lamb has 8 points, I'll be very happy because I'll move to 2-1 as opposed to 1-2, which feels a lot different. Josh, I don't know how you do it every year. Auto draft, you kill it. I feel like, and I know it's not just auto draft.
I had meant to make some modifications.
Yeah. Yep.
I meant to make some modifications because last week I lost in a very dumb way. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll reset. I think Christian Kirk and who else, like Miles Sanders were popping off last week. I'll just switch things out. Totally forgot. I'm still gonna win. Guys, I don't want to do this because this feels insulting to you guys and to the entire we have a really they do such a good job, and then I'm just like, yeah, nope, I'm not doing any of that.
That's the beauty of fantasy sports. It truly
and
is.
Sometimes there's nothing you can do, Josh.
Yeah.
There's not even like the guys I put on the team. I've even asked other people, I'm like, would have you done this? And they're like, yep. Like it might be my worst team ever just based on the injuries that they've already suffered, but we'll see.
Yeah. It's early. They'll cover it. We won't get too
we'll let them cover it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So you can look forward to that. We can trash talk a little bit more as we go too, because we'll be in 4 weeks of fantasy football at that point. So we'll be pretty well established. All right, guys, that takes us to our favorite fantasy football segment. I am a bad podcaster and don't have my thing pulled up yet. Give me 1 second. YouTube, this is how it be.
Josh, you can start with your chess update.
Guys.
Yeah, I'll give an intro like the minute that we've wasted hasn't happened. Josh, do you want to start this week? Because this has become an ongoing series. Josh, breaking news.
Guys.
Keep it going.
Welcome to Chess Heads, a podcast within a podcast showcasing the latest and greatest news coming out of the chess and larger international board game competition world. Thank you again for tuning in. Posted an hour before we went live. Magnus Carlsen finally breaks his silence. Says he believes that Neiman cheated. If you're just tuning into this, welcome first of all. Chess Heads, by the way, checked. That podcast name does not exist. So I am. Thank you. Yeah.
Good market research, Josh. Well done.
I wanted to make
trademark,
sure
buy that trademark.
Yeah, TM. How much is that domain?
Buy it right now.
Not enough.
Do we have a show budget?
We do. I'm about to break it on something else. Stay tuned, folks.
Let's see here. But
it's not on a chess head trademark.
Okay, so we're gonna need to buy it from some other company, but I'm sure we can get it for cheap. This is just some random website that sells chess pieces. We can 1000% bully them.
Yeah.
But
if we beat them in chess, they kind of like legally have to give us the domain, right? Like
exactly.
That's like an honor thing.
We will hire Magnus Carlsen, and he will come because he's not going to be. If Niemann enters any of these tournaments, if you are just catching up, a few weeks ago in St. Louis at an international chess match that was attended by some of the better, definitely better players. Magnus Carlsen, grandmaster for quite a long time, lost to a 19-year-old upstart with the last name of Niemann. Did it comfortably, did it casually. Immediately after that, lost. Magnus Carlsen left abruptly. Didn't even finish the rest of his games. And by that statement, everyone assumed that he thought Niemann had cheated. As it turns out, Niemann has actually been banned from chess.com. That was where he played his online games. He admitted to cheating twice. Magnus Carlsen actually has not said anything since then. He's been very coy, very cryptic in his statements, believing he'd be in trouble, but he's finally breaking his statements now. He believes not only that Niemann cheated that day, but quote, he's like, I believe that Niemann has cheated more and more recently than he has publicly admitted. His over-the-board progress has been unusual, and throughout our game in St. Louis, I had the impression that he wasn't tense or even fully concentrating on the game in critical positions, while outplaying as black in a way that I think only a handful of players can do. Now, is there a chance that Niemann is the most recent prodigy, super genius chess player? It's always possible. Here at Chess Heads, we never make an absolute statement. However, that even Carlsen, this guy has decades of experience under his belt. He's been playing longer than Niemann's been alive. He was thrown off by Niemann's demeanor, and that was enough for him to go, this guy's cheating somehow. So no official word. Obviously, this is, as breaking as you can get it. Niemann has not responded to the Wall Street Journal's request for a statement. And I think we said last time Carlsen and Niemann met for an online game, but Carlsen, I think, logged out as soon as he did his opening move. It's kind of a statement piece. The chess governing body, I forget off the top of my head. You're going to have to forgive me. I know there is a governing body. I don't know.
NCA, the National Chess Heads Association.
Exactly. NCHA, NACHA, has been.
Yes, that one, Josh. Yep.
Or NACHA, whichever one you guys prefer. Yeah. They've obviously not made any rulings of note yet, but with this very groundbreaking, bold statement, that something's going to happen now. When the Grandmaster's upset, they're going to move in. So follow for more updates. Thank you again for checking into Chess Heads.
Yeah, now I'll warn you, don't dive too deep, because then you'll learn some of the ways people think he may have cheated.
Please don't.
We do try to keep the show family appropriate, so I will continue that by not talking about
ages.
It.
Yes.
Well, that's true, but what he
did
cheat may not be for all ages. So
just
take
say
that information for what you will.
Just say that there are many ways that one can cheat.
Yes, there are many places where one could put a buzzer that tells you what to do. That's all I'm going to say. I probably said too much already. Anyways, we need to move on.
Looking at you, Houston Astros. Looking at you.
Yeah. I'll switch subjects real quick. What I'm following is the Pro Bowl. I'm curious, have you guys ever watched the Pro Bowl?
Yes.
I think it was on accidentally once at a youth function 10 years ago.
Okay. Johnny, you have.
I'm crazy. I don't count.
Well, okay, but do you regularly watch the Pro Bowl? I'm trying to gain some market research here, much like Josh.
It's on. Am I really into it? No, not at all. Especially since they moved it out of Hawaii.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm interested in that. I'm also interested, and maybe we'll put a poll on Instagram or something, how much you, the listener, have paid attention to the Pro Bowl in the past. I, for one, I don't think I've ever watched a Pro Bowl. I just don't care. And I think that seems to be kind of the general sense of fans. And even if it's not, the NFL has basically got rid of the Pro Bowl game. That was breaking news as of today. Jonny, you're clapping. I'm with you. I think this is a great thing. I know some people don't like it. I think generally the sense is this is good. And here's why it's good. Because they've taken the Pro Bowl game, a game that was like, oh, it's just flag football, which was maybe a fair criticism. Guys, they just turned it into actual flag football. That's awesome. You know what the best part of what I have watched of Pro Bowl weekend? The best part of Pro Bowl weekend was the guys playing dodgeball against each other. Because you have these guys with just insane arms trying to pummel the other team with dodgeballs. That's awesome content, and you're going to get more stuff like this. There's going to be skill challenges throughout the week, culminating in a flag football game. Guys, I think that's awesome. Because you know what's awesome about it? For a variety of different reasons. Number one, why are we playing this game at the end of the season that, no, it's rare that someone gets hurt, but why are we even trying this weird exercise, this exhibition? I don't think there's enough people that care that this is a big deal. Maybe I'll find out later that people are really into this. And if you are, and if you're upset by this, I'm sorry, but this to me makes a lot of sense.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah, I'm not. Really.
Don't be sorry.
I don't care.
You're right.
I've never
you're
watched
right,
one in my life.
Yeah, don't be sorry.
Okay, I'm not. If you think the Pro Bowl is good, then you're stupid. There, I went completely the opposite direction. The fact that we get a flag football game, give me like Vita Vea, who's like 350 pounds. By the way, he dropped into coverage and caused a fumble on the 1 yard line. Give me stuff like that, but in flag football form, where who cares? It's the Pro Bowl. We're lining up Vita Vea, 350 pounds at wide receiver for a corner fade, and he's just going to bully people and try to catch the ball. Like, you're going to get some just stupid stuff like that, which is awesome. I'm here for it. I don't know what's going to happen in the flag football game, but it's awesome. I'm going to be way more invested in this game than I was ever for the Pro Bowl. That's just me. I know that's one man's opinion. That's how I feel about it. That's what I'm following. Pro Bowl 2023 in Vegas will be different, and I think it'll be good.
Yeah. Aaron, I'm 1,000% with you. Skills challenges throughout the entire week leading up to the Super Bowl sounds way more, like you said, dodgeball. Yeah. I personally would like to see like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Rodgers might be too old at this point. But give me all the biggest, Justin Herbert, give me all the biggest arms in the league. Let me see who can just throw the ball the farthest.
You realize they used to do that,
things
too.
Like that. I know, bring it back. Who wouldn't want to watch that? I think we'd all watch that. I mean, wouldn't take very long either.
No.
I mean, it's basically like watching javelin, but with a football. So we would all like to watch this.
Yes.
Anyway, what I'm following this week is just I will be giving an update on my favorite neighbors, and those are our ducks outside of our apartment complex, Clarence and Bernice. Yes, I have named them. They're around all the time, especially since we put the bird feeder up. The bird feeder, the birds and the squirrels knock all the seeds down and then they eat them. Last night, they're around all the time. They try to get into the apartment sometimes, but we're not about that life. No poop on the carpet. That will not happen. But yesterday, when I was going to the gym in the evening, as I sometimes do, I noticed that there was literally an egg on my patio, which I did not understand that ducks lay eggs at this time of year, but I guess they can do whatever they want. But unfortunately, when I got back from the gym, the egg was broken and gone already. So devastated
geese.
for Clarence and Bernice. Probably the geese.
I know that's kind of
racist
as far as animals, but that's just factual.
They have been around a little bit recently too. Always get angry when I see them instead of my duck friends. I have not seen Clarence or Bernice since last night and the destruction of their egg. So if you've seen Clarence and Bernice, please give me a call, text me, let me know. I want to know how they're doing. They're our best neighbors. So hopefully they're doing all right. Get out of here, you stupid geese.
I can confirm from said breakfast and past times, the ducks are great. They absolutely would just walk inside and probably hang out on the couch and watch like Oregon play or something, like super wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have woken up many a times to just hearing quacking outside of my bedroom window.
Oh,
so
man.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Very good.
Wouldn't want it any other way.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for this week. Thank you all for listening. Appreciate it. As always, a reminder, today's game of the week. I know we've talked about NC State Clemson, but Kansas host TCU, an undefeated Big 12 game. Make some plans so you can cancel them and watch that game, because that's the most important thing that you'll do this week is watching Kansas and TCU play. And then when Kansas wins, then or they play Texas Tech this week. I don't know. They play TCU.
Kansas
at some
plays
point.
Iowa. Kansas
that's right.
plays
Right.
Iowa.
Yes. Thank you. I got ahead of myself. I got a little excited. I saw undefeated TCU on the schedule. You're right. Obviously, I was just assuming that because Kansas will take care of business against Iowa State. Then they'll face an undefeated TCU team, which would be great because that means TCU fresh off a win against Oklahoma. You'll have game day at Kansas. We're prophesying it now. Game day, go to Kansas when all that happens. All right. That will wrap us up. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it. As always, if you want to support us, then like and follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, do all the things, leave a rating on this podcast. We appreciate you guys, all the support we've had. Another chance that we had this week to go to a college game and cover it as media. So again, I just want to say thank you for that opportunity. Really could not have done that without your support. And with that, we will talk to you guys next week. Have a good one.
Nice.
I didn't think ducks laid eggs this time of year.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I
guess
I don't know a whole lot about wildlife. I just kind of looked outside and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, it feels late, but
And it's white, so it just kind of sticks out there. And it was just sitting there too. Like Bernice
so
did not
weird.
stay with the egg. So it was very weird.
Huh.
And at first I was just like, my eyes are playing a trick. But then I went to the gym and I was like, nope, that is an egg.
Still there?
And then I was definitely looking around like, are they right here? Are they going to attack me if I get anywhere near it?
That's true.
Which I would not have blamed them for. That would be on me. So. Aaron, I'm going to just save my JMU rant, or you can rant about it for the college football part.
Yeah, we can probably joint rant that one.
Free the Dukes. Free them.
I just keep seeing just horrible food pictures with the caption, "Let Russ cook."
I know, that's so funny. We need to talk about Russell Wilson.
I know. We probably should have brought it up today. That should actually been maybe a fake team. Missed opportunity.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I love the it's like cereal and like 2 raw hot dogs in a bowl. And it's like, let Russ cook.
I just saw one that like someone cooked the crap out of a steak. Almost worse than Lincoln Riley's brisket. Not quite that bad, but
it's just about as bad as that like chicken wing picture that one time that said, I demolished the, and there's like a single bite taken out of each one of them, and it makes me there are fewer things that exist that make me more angry than that picture.
Yeah.
Wasting wings is awful.
Apparently, by the way, this is an additional what you're following. I think we're good. It's weird. Let me make sure stream is... All right, there, we're back. All right, sorry, YouTube, if you disappeared. Free thing for you guys. Apparently tomorrow, this is as of Twitter, so who knows if this is real, but it's got 175,000 likes. Jupiter will be the closest to Earth that it's ever been since 1963.
That's right.
So it'll be... Apparently you can see its bands and some of its moons with just binoculars. And it won't happen again
That's
until
crazy.
2129. But that was tomorrow but that was 23 hours ago, so that's tonight?
Is that right now?
Yeah. It's apparently called Jupiter's opposition.
Is there a specific time of day?
That's a great band name.
That's true. Dang it, Josh. Well done.
Jupiter's what?
Opposition.
Jupiter's opposition.
Yeah.
Dude, that also
a
sounds like a
fantastic-
fantastic sci-fi novel.
Apparently all night
That's a
is
great
how long
band
this is
name.
going.
Okay, so it's just starting to get dark, so maybe
Okay,
it'll
so
be better. Honestly,
Jasmine,
in a
as
little
long as
bit.
this is not a made up account, but again, 52,000 followers, either it's real or she's gaslighted 52,000. I don't think that's true. Jasmine, Purdue 2022 BS in Planetary Science, former NASA intern. Well done. Thank you for enlightening us on this. So,
Why is NASA not tweeting stuff like this out? What are they doing?
I think they are apparently crashing a spacecraft into an asteroid on purpose as an attempt to test, according to Jasmine. Thank you
that's
again.
right.
In an attempt to test a potential planetary defense method should an asteroid pose a threat to us in the future. I don't know why.
Okay,
YouTube, I'm a
never mind.
terrible
I take it
streamer.
back,
Let me
NASA.
actually
That's pretty good.
I can show you this if I was a good
That's
streamer.
not too bad.
Here we go.
That's I
Listen,
take
it's
it
either
back.
this or they teach drillers how to be astronauts, and we know how well that worked last. It actually worked really well last time, so maybe
Yeah.
that's okay.
So this is just a gif of an asteroid, but here's Jasmine. So
I'll take.
yeah, that's super cool. Oh, there was even a live feed. Man, we should have. No wonder. Yeah, we should have just been watching that. I almost had a thought, and this is a bad thought, and probably meant that we didn't need to do this. We failed to mention the butt punt, which is a little sad. We probably should have mentioned it in our show.
Yeah, we didn't mention the
This
butt
is-
punt or Garoppolo running out of the end zone.
Yeah. Did you guys see like the really really slow mo butt punt?
He did save a safety by letting the touchdown through,
Yeah,
which I think that's 40 chess right there.
threw a pick six, but stepped out of the end zone before he could. I think I probably should have done this, but I almost tweeted out like 1,000 likes and will stream just that video on repeat for 24 hours.
Oh, you should have tweeted that.
Probably should have done it.
I mean, people were tweeting out Mark Sanchez and Dan Orlovsky's salvation happened on the same day.
That's true, actually.
It happened on the same day.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. All right.
Dan tweeted, couldn't tweet fast enough how happy he was.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna run to the restroom and then I'll come back and we can hit our hair football show next if that's good. Josh, how's the homework?
Yeah.
You hanging in there with everything?
Yeah, we're making it. It's my Greek class got like there's technically no due dates. As far as like there's no penalty for late assignments.
Okay.
My professor just straight up doesn't care. Which in one sense is nice. At the same time, because it that means they were delayed in getting the Canvas site up, and so I'm a touch behind on that as far as how I would prefer. So that's slowing some things down. But I was able to translate my Philippians a little bit faster, so that was a big
Nice.
praise.
Good.
Do I know how to translate Greek? No, I'm bad. But I can at least pronounce it halfway accurately. And you know what? That's half the battle. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Josh, in
interesting. I
additional what
unfortunately
you're
need to-
following
oh,
for
yeah,
next
of course.
week, Domino's
Yeah, hit me with
Pizza
it.
closed their last store in Italy, so we can mourn that. If
Oh.
you need to
Domino's had
add
what?
Yeah, that's probably
Yeah,
Johnny.
I
That's
was
probably
gonna
the right
say-
reaction to that. But
What?
Well, I mean, listen, and this is also way beyond what we would normally follow. But the
That
I guess
would've
the
been a
prime
good
minister or
what we're
whoever.
calling.
Yeah, you want to do that? Well, I don't think it's a coincidence. Johnny, you would recognize this. Italy's new prime minister. Did you hear about that, Johnny?
Actually, no.
I'm gonna get her name real quick.
Does she not like soccer or something?
Oh, it is so much worse than that, Johnny. Oh, it's
no,
so
it
much
can't
worse
be.
than
It
that.
can't be worse than that. How can it be worse than that? They don't like pasta. They're gluten free.
Her name is I'm gonna butcher it, but this is behind the paywall, so I don't have to pronounce things correctly. Georgia Meloni.
Okay.
She is the great granddaughter of Mussolini, and shares many
Josh,
many
the music,
of his
you didn't hear
political
this, Josh?
views.
The music cut perfectly when you said that.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Oh, it's gonna be. She won. I don't know how big a margin she won by, but
wow.
you know, she's granddaughter, and she very much shares not all the views, but most of them. A lot of the significant ones.
Oh, I was going to say at first, like, well, great granddaughter. Like, should you really hold it against her? Like, you know, because
I
that's
won't.
not sort of.
I don't want us to get content ID'd, so I'm not going to use any words that would describe. I feel like we've already crossed the line. I will say the words that were used to describe him. There's a lot of overlap.
Oof.
Ooh.
Um.
Wow.
That's not great.
Yeah.
And it is worse than her
But-
not liking soccer,
it's a
or being
good thing.
gluten-free, and not eating pasta.
Yeah.
It is worse.
Oh, yeah. I can't. Oh, I can't. Oh, I can't. I can't even
Don't.
speak these things. I'm so sorry.
Don't. I'm
Yeah,
just
we're
over here
gonna get banned.
tossing a
We're getting
football.
perma banned. Yes. So I unfortunately have to leave, but thank you for that. I'm gonna. I will keep the Domino's Italy. We'll talk about Domino's Italy and nothing else. And nothing else. Maybe Domino's called
can't
right on the walls. Like,
believe-
oh, we gotta get out of here.
They
Yeah, that's
were
true.
bold enough to open a pizza store in Italy. I mean,
The fact that
Honestly,
Starbucks owns a
how
few stores
dare
in
they?
Milan, and it's like you ought not. I
No.
get that like American pizza is fine and you can make it its own thing, and we also understand that Domino's is not. Domino's is pizza where you can get like 3 medium pizzas for like $6 a piece. Like it serves its purpose.
throughout
Yeah,
most of
Domino's is-
Austria,
It's gotta
Starbucks bombed.
be in. Yeah, I was gonna say
They're the
it's you gotta.
same. They don't want it.
You have to think it's either for expats or it's for tourists who
It
are
is.
so overwhelmed by
absolutely.
cultural food. They're like, I gotta. I mean, it's like going to a McDonald's in London. You're like, I gotta just have something that's not beans on toast. And so for that, they're probably in the big touristy centers. You're
Yeah.
like, I don't know all their dumb, coffee rules. I don't know why I can't order a cappuccino after 11 a.m. I'm just gonna go to Starbucks. And get a mat because they don't do. I mean, a lot of European countries don't do iced drinks. They're very traditional when it comes to their mixed coffees.
Really
So I'm assuming that Pizza Hut probably did because, like, I know over there you can't order pepperoni pizzas. Pepperoni is close enough to that pepperoncini where that's that actual pepper. So you can't just order a pepperoni pizza. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Huh.
No, you're absolutely right. I couldn't get a pepperoni pizza in Austria.
Oh,
You
interesting.
couldn't. Didn't exist. Did not
Didn't
exist.
exist.
There was
You're getting
something that was
margarita,
kind of
you're getting-
similar, but it was not pepperoni.
You're getting Brussels sprouts or something.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they wouldn't put ice in any of my drinks. So
Right.
No, they don't do ice over there.
not even water.
They also don't
Oh.
have AC. Yeah.
Not in London, they don't.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway,
All right.
we'll let you go.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, Josh, thanks.
No,
for,
you're fine. I'm going to talk
thanks
to
for
my
recording.
Yeah, call my parents. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll talk to you next
Have a good week, guys.
Yeah, I'll probably talk to you
Yeah.
soon,
Josh.
because we got some things I got to go over with you guys. But anyways,
Oh yes.
Yeah. I'll talk to you. I'll talk
Later.
to you.
See ya.
All right, I'm gonna hit the restroom real quick, and then we can knock this,
Yeah,
knock
you're
this
good.
out. Whew. I ran again today, dude. I'm so sore. I should probably mute the mic too when I leave. That way you guys don't hear the toilet flushing. That'd be awkward.
Ugh. Cannot wait. Cannot wait for Saturday. And it's Monday. It's not a good sign in some ways. You know, it is what it is.
All right.
I can't wait for Saturday.
Oh, there's some good games.
And it's Monday. It's not good.
I
Not
feel
a
like I
good
have so
start.
much film study to do on this last week that I'll be all right because I think I've said like 4 to 5 key games, and like last week had like 7 or 8. So I still need to catch up on a bunch.
I somehow picked because I just watched 2 games at once.
Yeah.
I somehow did a pretty good job of like watching the correct games. So I have a few games I need to go back and I actually need to go back and watch. I was offense in the second half because I
Yeah.
only watched the first half of that game, hoping for a punt battle. Didn't get it. So they figured a few things out. So I do need to like go back and watch that. I would like to watch the Georgia game, even though I know like that's probably not really the Georgia team we will see going forward. I would still like to watch the Georgia game. I'd like to watch Kentucky struggle with Northern Illinois. Hats off to the MAC schools.
Great week for them.
They got in on some fun. Ohio survives Fordham. Miami, Ohio takes out Northwestern. How bad is Northwestern?
Ooh, they're very bad.
Very bad. How bad is Hawaii? In our
bad.
Potential game of the century turns out to be a dud.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Although if this is opposite world, is that a great game? Did we witness a very, very good game?
No, it wasn't even a sickos
standard.
game. No, because it wasn't even like so awful that it was good. Like New Mexico State just actually clearly looked like a much better team. So good for you, New Mexico State. You go from 1st to 5th.
Yeah.
Well done. And in these rankings, that's well done.
Yep.
2 thumbs up. And you have the potential to keep going up, New Mexico State. So, come on, keep it going. Keep it rolling. You guys got Florida International at home, 14.5-point favorites. Aggies should be able to win that game too. I believe Florida International, what did they lose? Like 66-0 this week?
They 72-0, I think.
Oh, who'd they lose to?
Western
it wasn't
Kentucky.
even. Yeah. Yeah. And now listen, Western Kentucky is not a bad team.
Yeah.
But
Western Kentucky should be 4-0.
yes, they should be. Yeah. But no wonder that's the line. Now do not bet that game. Just like the Hawaii New Mexico State game.
Right.
We're not telling anyone to necessarily gamble, but please do not bet a game that involves New Mexico State or Hawaii or UConn or UMass. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we kind of did a soft open for this because usually I start YouTube kind of when we start, but you've been rolling if you're watching on actually this is the only way to watch us on YouTube. So welcome back. It's another Football Monday. So glad you're back with us, Jonny. What a week, man. I think we had this one highlighted even at the beginning of the year for some of the potential matchups. And I think overall it lived up to the hype, even though maybe some of the results didn't go exactly how we wanted, just as far as fun upsets and stuff, but still a really good week. We are in the thick of conference play in college football. I think to kick us off today, before we jump into our picks, our usual rundown of things, how about just identifying like a couple winners and losers from this week? Yeah. I'll give it to you for the first play.
Yeah, this weekend, like, there's not a ton of shifting in the rankings, like in reality, because it was a week of testing and near upsets. USC survives Oregon State, Clemson survives, Michigan outlasts Maryland, Georgia out struggles, but they're fine. Kentucky struggles, but they're fine. Kind of a weird week where nothing quite chaotic exploded onto the scene. Near misses. Winners though, you said kind of winners for the weekend. One, I gotta hit home on the Jayhawks. They're winner for multiple of reasons. That stadium hasn't been half full for most games in the last decade, and to have it sold out and for you to come away with an 8-point win, they didn't quite cover for me. Missed it by a point. But to win that game, outstanding job by the Jayhawks. Huge for that program. Huge. I would also say a big winner with Minnesota. We talked about Minnesota on the podcast, and part of it's the schedule leading up to this and then going forward. And Michigan State doesn't seem like they have it without Kenneth Walker this year. You got that big matchup with Penn State. Paul Bunyan-Zachs is always tough. Iowa will be in play still, even though people want to write them off. But Minnesota should win the Big Ten West. Losers, we're talking about just teams that have, I have a hard time saying that Florida is a loser. It's the first year with Billy Napier. To be that competitive on the road in Knoxville against a very good Volunteer squad, I don't really necessarily call them a loser. But they're going to have a lot of growing pains. Him and Richardson really need another year. Give Florida a chance. I hope Richardson comes back. I guess my main loser has got to be Miami. Oh, my goodness. 4 touchdowns of 70 yards or more, I believe, that you gave up to Middle Tennessee and got housed at home. Brutal day. The U is not back. That further kind of cemented my feelings about Texas A&M as well. When A&M easily could have lost to that Hurricane squad at home the week before. I just don't think either one of those teams is very good. But Miami, huge loser. Awful week. Where I thought with Van Dyke, it might be a quicker build, at least this year with Cristobal. You know what, though? Doesn't it start to bring up those questions with Cristobal? The same guy who had Justin,
I think is
Justin. Yeah. Same guy who had Justin Herbert at Oregon and made him just look like he's a good Pac-12 quarterback. Then you see him in the NFL and you're like, what the heck? Like, where'd this come from? And, we saw the ability, but is Cristobal holding these quarterbacks back? Are they not opening up the playbook? Is it far too conservative? Is it just milk toast? You have Justin Herbert, who's this 4.0 athlete, 4.0 student. You watered it down for him. Why would you Van Dyke was having a brilliant year last season. Him struggling against Middle Tennessee, that feels more on the coaching staff than it does on Van Dyke. So I could be wrong. I really doubt it, though, because this is the second instance for that. And I saw Tyler play last year, and he looked excellent despite the Hurricanes having a very bad team. So Miami's my big loser.
Yeah, that was kind of the one I was alluding to. At this point, which team do you think is worse off, Miami or Michigan State? And it's
Miami.
You think Miami? I think so. There's a couple other factors. I think Michigan State could be in trouble because of how much they're paying Mel Tucker, and if this season gets bad, and it could, because guess what? Michigan State still has Michigan, Ohio State on their schedule, and I'm sure they Penn State. Yeah, thank you. The obvious one. They probably draw somebody else out of the West too, who could beat them at this point. You're talking about a Michigan, and this is true for Miami as well. You're talking about both teams that have the chance to miss a bowl game. It's bad. I agree with you. I think Miami's a worse thing, partially because of where they play. As of now, they don't have an on-campus facility. I know there's been talks and designs going out there. That needs to happen. That's a whole different conversation that we had kind of off air about UCLA, and they probably need to build a 50,000 seat stadium on campus and just see if they can fill that up, because the Rose Bowl is not working as far as attendance, and they're 4-0. It should have worked by now. Yeah, I agree. I'd say Indiana's a loser. I got to cover the Cincinnati-Indiana game, and Indiana was down 28 points at halftime to Cincinnati. And I realized Cincinnati is a very good team and the most likely Group of 5 school, in my opinion, to reach a New Year's Six. But that's bad. And I know Tom Allen had that one really good year in 2020. It has just not really materialized. And I know I'm talking about a 3-1 team, but if you've watched how that team has played in their 3 wins, it's not great. And that's also has a potential of them going 5-7 and missing out on a bowl game. And then you're just kind of still stuck in mediocrity at best. And I know Indiana, very different expectations than compared to Michigan State or Miami, but And seeing that in person, it was like, oh my! And Indiana threw it a school record 66 times. It was like, this is not great for Indiana. So, anyways, that's kind of a maybe an under the radar that I don't know how many people actually care about that one, but that was me observing in person, I guess. So I had to throw that in there. All right. Well, let's just get into it. I think we should make some picks here. We actually picked somewhat differently last week, and we knew one of us was going to do well, and one of us was not going to do well. I did pretty well. I went 8-2. I had a good week. I'm in at least
That's darn upright.
Yeah.
That A&M game was a killer.
Yeah, it was. I had 43 points last week. You had 30. So there's our difference if you're following along. And if you've been making picks on ESPN's Pick'em, then feel free to jump in our group on ESPN, 5th and Goal Sports. I am third. Jonny, you're not that far behind. You're fifth, but the points, I am up 17 points. It is, again, very early. We're less than a third of the way through the season, essentially. But we've got some interesting picks, and I think there's a chance that we have some differences. So let's get into it. We've got the number 4 team in the country, the Michigan Wolverines, after a scare against Maryland. They head to Kinnick Stadium, which has been a buzzsaw for top 5 teams. The Hawkeyes, 5-1 in their last 6 games against top 5 opponents. I do think Michigan wins this. I do expect an ugly game. Look, I know Iowa's had extraordinary success here in these kind of games. And their offense is never good, but it's never been this bad. This is one of the worst teams in college football from an offensive perspective. And at some point, that's going to hold them back from actually springing that upset. I do like Michigan here.
Yeah, it will be an ugly game. It will be. But like you said, Iowa's inability to score points on the offensive side of the ball in the traditional way will prevent them from pulling off this upset. Don't be surprised if this game is 7-6 at halftime.
Yeah.
Heck, it could be 7-6 going into the fourth quarter. I think this is actually a perfect game for JJ McCarthy to grow. I expect him to probably throw multiple picks in this game. As long as they're not able to return them for touchdowns, I think Michigan will be just fine. You'll get a heavy dose of Blake Corum in this game. Ultimately, that will prevail. It will be ugly. It'll be a learning. This will be a huge learning test for that Wolverine offense. You go up against Maryland. It's really a test almost more for the defense. This is more of a test for the offense to battle through that Iowa strong defense. They're not going to have good field position potentially in this game either. So it's going to tune in for a very interesting game to learn a lot about Michigan in this one.
Yeah, should be good. This is kind of the game that you had highlighted on Michigan's schedule at the beginning of the year. You saw those first 4 games. They're scheduled in September, and you thought, okay, they'll be 4-0. Let's see what happens in October when they kind of kick things off in real, and they have Iowa. They play Michigan State, who at this point I don't think is actually going to be that good of a game, considering what Spartans have looked like. But yes, you're right. This is kind of what we've been waiting for to see. First test, really, J.J. McCarthy, as he's starting. This will be his first big test as far as his opportunities as a starting quarterback. All right, we turn to the SEC. We've got an intriguing top 25 matchup between Kentucky and Ole Miss, and this time it truly is a top 25 matchup. This game is in Oxford. The problem is, how good is Ole Miss? I think we know about what to expect from Kentucky. They beat Florida. They have played to the level of their competition. They snuck out a win against Northern Illinois. I don't know if that's them overlooking the Huskies and regardless of what they say, all the coach speak and looking ahead to this game. I think the reality is that the way this team plays, a very pro-style operation, they're just not going to blow teams out because that's just not the way they play. I do think they win this game on the road because Ole Miss, I think, is all right. But they've played nobody. As you mentioned on our podcast, they lost a lot of talent. And even, you talk about playing to the level of the competition, Ole Miss has done that as well. Tulsa gave Ole Miss everything they could handle, and that was with Davis Brin, who was the nation's leading passer going into that game, was injured. So I think it's a story I at least know what I think I'm getting from Kentucky. I don't know what I'm getting. The unknown, I'm going with Kentucky on the road, even though Oxford's going to be hopping.
I agree for everything you just said. And if you haven't watched Ole Miss this season, it's actually a run first team
Mm-hmm.
this year. And they're going to run right into the strength and the teeth of that Kentucky defense with that. If Kentucky's strengths are edge rushers, the interior of that defensive line, and linebackers, you'd almost prefer the traditional Ole Miss just run and gun, throw that ball over the yard. You'd have a better chance against this Kentucky team. What you said, though, Aaron, the unknown more with Ole Miss, I have to go with Kentucky, even on the road in this game. I expect, unless Will Levis implodes, which he is capable of doing, I really think Kentucky wins. I don't think it's a blowout. I think they win handily. 10 to 13 points. I think they win this game. It is only Ole Miss is actually favored by 4 right now in this game. So very interesting. It's an interesting betting line. A lot of faith in Ole Miss, ranked 14th, 4-point favorite at home in this game. I do think Lane Kiffin is the right coach for Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is in the right spot as a program, but they lost a lot last year and they haven't played anybody yet. And Kentucky's a rough first draw of a conference opponent.
Yeah. Ole Miss, one of the toughest schedules in the country because, of course, they play in the SEC West and they draw Kentucky. All right. So we agree there. Do we agree Oklahoma TCU? The question is, how good is TCU actually? And how does Oklahoma respond from that loss against Kansas State? They found a way to lose again to the Wildcats, and now they go on the road to Fort Worth to face the TCU Horned Frogs. I do think Oklahoma responds well, but here's, again, a scenario where, look ahead, you've got Texas coming up the week after. Is this a team that's focused? How well will Brent Venables be able to get his message across in his first loss with the Sooners? I do think Oklahoma wins. I think that offense is gonna take over. Dylan Gabriel is gonna keep rolling. Really, the offense wasn't entirely the problem in their loss over Kansas State. That was all Adrian Martinez. Turns out he was not the problem in Nebraska. I like the Sooners. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I agree with you. I have the Sooners. I'd be more hesitant in this game probably if they had snuck that out against Kansas State. Mm-hmm. I just expect Brent Venables to be able to flip that around. A lot of teaching tape. My main concern, TCU, I believe, is leading the conference in rushing. Kansas State didn't gash Oklahoma through the air. Yeah. They destroyed them on the ground between Taylor Martinez and then Deuce Vaughn and the running attack in general and everything that Kansas State throws at you. Sonny Dykes has done a great job moving from SMU to TCU, gets Iron Skillet last week. I have to go with Oklahoma here, but beware. This could be another shootout in this one. I do like the Sooners, though, to bounce back. I don't expect them to lose 2 in a row. Seems a bit much for me.
Yep, I agree. So we're three for three on agreeing with each other. So here's one that ESPN, at least percentages wise, is pretty split. 55% of people think Oklahoma State will go to Baylor and win against the Bears. I agree because there's one image that this is all I need. It's the image here's the demonstration. It's the image of Oklahoma State diving in short. That's all I need. Oklahoma State wins this. I think they're going to be extremely motivated on the road. Yeah. Spencer Sanders will be the best player on the field, and I expect him to lead this team. He's been there forever. He's got a bunch of wins under his belt. I know that Oklahoma State defense is not great, but I don't think the Baylor offense is that great, to be honest with you. So I'm taking the Cowboys. We'll see. Not going to be a high confidence pick by any stretch of the imagination, but I like the Cowboys, and they might be the Big 12's only hope of a playoff team right now. So take that for what you will.
I'm all in on the Cowboys in this game. You have a bye week to prepare against a team that you are going to have vengeance on your mind for being just a foot away from maybe the college football playoff last year.
Truly, yes.
True. I mean, Big 12 title, probably, they might put you in over Cincinnati at that point in the 4th spot. Very real possibility of that happening. Baylor kept that from you. Baylor, they do beat Iowa State last week. I'm still concerned about explosiveness on offense. So and I trust Dave Aranda on defense, but will they be able to keep up with Oklahoma State's offense? I don't think so. I think Oklahoma State starts to separate themselves from the pack this week. Spencer Sanders and the Cowboys win.
All right. Well, there we go. 4 for 4. How about number 5? Wake Forest heads to Florida State. Florida State, good for them, undefeated and ranked. Wake Forest, a tough, close loss to Clemson. And again, I think this is kind of the same theme, especially in conference season. This is kind of what happens. How do you bounce back after that initial loss? That's a big question because Wake Forest is going to go into a Hoppin Stadium. There hasn't been high expectations or really any expectations at all because Florida State has had 2 losses by this point in the last 6 years.
They were 0-4 last year. Yeah. They're 4-0 this year.
Yeah.
Great job by Mike Norvell. A lot of people were already had him fired by this point in the year.
Yeah, and he's got a chance to go 5-0. They host Clemson this year, which at the beginning of the season, you didn't really think anything of that. That's 3 weeks away. There's still plenty of football that needs to happen by then. Florida State should not be looking ahead to that game, but I'm just throwing it out there. I'm torn. I thought about this game so much because you've got Sam Hartman on one side, you've got Jordan Travis on the other. Both are just incredible. This is one of those games that I think I'll probably be rooting for Florida State, which sounds weird, but I just love the fact that they're undefeated. I'd like to see that keep going because college football is just better when Florida State's better. I think they're going to win because they're at home. That's really the only, it's such a toss-up for me, and I have to go back to the fact that they're playing at home. And that Wake Forest defense is just not very good.
Yeah, I hate that we're agreeing on everything. I have Florida State. I probably feel a little bit more confident than you. The way Wake Forest lost that game was just backbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, it really has a chance to derail what could have been a special season. It still can be. You're not going to make the ACC title game at this point after losing to Clemson. It just the likelihood of that and Clemson losing 2 games and Wake not losing again is probably very slim. But and they had that chance and they got really conservative, like they were the favorites. I think there's going to be a lot of trouble there. Sam Hartman's not going to be able to throw the ball quite as much as he was against. You saw that on tape now. Florida State should be able to hone in on that, play a couple high safeties like Clemson started doing at the end of the end of the game, just keeping those guys back, bracketing wide receivers, not allowing them to get behind you. I'm expecting a lot better performance. Florida State's at home. I think Wake Forest, that's just such a brutal loss. I think they do recover. I don't think they recover this week, though. I think Florida State, that defense is better than people think it is. Jordan Travis being back last week was huge. Wasn't expecting him to bounce back that quickly.
Yeah.
This team has heart. I really expect Florida State. They're exceeding expectations based on the talent that they have on that field, too. I think they keep it going, though. That defense for Wake Forest, I know DJ did play well, but that Wake Forest defense is really bad, too.
Yeah, should be good. I'm fascinated for this game. There's so many games like that I think are just going to be really, really good.
It's probably my one confidence pick.
Yeah, it might be. And look, we're agreeing so far so that how this goes. It may just depend on where we kind of put these rankings to see who is takes an advantage in week 5. All right, we move to the Big 12. Iowa State heads to undefeated Kansas. I'll let you take this one first, and then I'll since I've been leading, I'll let you have the first crack at this one. I'm curious. I do have my pick already. To be fair, I'm not cheating. My pick.
My heart says Kansas. My head is saying Iowa State finds a way to win this game, and there was so much built into this game this last week against Duke, so much hype. It's a sellout. I would expect it to be another great atmosphere, though, this week in Lawrence. The best thing that happened to Kansas before this game, though, I will say, is not being ranked. Not being ranked is actually really helpful for the Jayhawks and what they can do in that locker room and as a coaching staff. They still don't believe in you. They still don't think that you're legit. They still don't think that you're real. They still don't think that you can win any of these games. They're at home, and Iowa State is a 3-point favorite, which means you'd probably have Iowa State as a touchdown favorite if it was on the road. So they still don't believe in this Kansas team. Unfortunately, I think I have to go with the Cyclones, though. They don't beat themselves like most of Kansas's opponents have so far. I think Iowa State has the defense that can finally start to slow down Jalen Daniels. I mean, he has been fantastic. One of the best quarterbacks in the country so far this year. Yeah, I think Iowa State's offense is going to run crazy against the Kansas defense, which has had a lot of gaps and a lot of mistakes so far this season. I think they finally pay for that. So I don't want to pick the Cyclones,
Yep.
but that's what I think is going to happen. I want to be wrong. I would happily give away my points for the Jayhawks to win.
I feel the exact same way. And I was throwing it over to you in case you picked Kansas, because I wanted this Kansas. It's the same thing Kirk Herbstreit on game day when he was wrong, but he kind of looked around and tried not to get murdered on his way out of the stadium by picking Florida against Tennessee. That's kind of the way I feel now. I want Kansas to win so bad, but have they played a team in the top half of the FBS defensively? I doubt it. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but their wins, FCS to begin the year, I believe. Then Houston.
Houston's defense is awful.
Yeah, Houston's defense is bad. Duke, not great. Missing it. West Virginia, not a great defense either. I don't imagine any of those four teams that and not taking anything away from what Kansas is doing, because they deserve to be ranked, and they are ranked in our top 25, and that is correct. This is a different challenge. Iowa State's a legitimate defense. We know what Matt Campbell does. Ironically, Matt Campbell, this could be a part of an interview process for him at Kansas, potentially, depending on how much you want to read into the tea leaves of who Kansas would hire after, or, Lance Leopold, whatever things shake out. Wisconsin might be looking at Lance Leopold the way the Jayhawks have started and the way the Badger season is going 2-2. Anyways, but yeah, I agree. I do think Iowa State wins. I think it's close. They probably rip our hearts out by kicking a game-winning field goal or something stupid. So I agree. All right, we got an interesting American showdown. SMU is 2-2 after falling to Maryland and narrowly to TCU. They performed fairly well in both games. They head to the bounce house, UCF. I'm picking the Knights, who I think are going to be really good in the American. I know all eyes are on Cincinnati, but a reminder that Cincinnati must travel to UCF. I believe that's October 8th, which is a really interesting game, and I think UCF will handle a very talented offense in SMU. Tanner Mordecai will be slinging it all around, but UCF's going to win this.
I have SMU and the Mustangs, so here we go. Here's some difference finally. I actually have not been impressed with UCF's offense under Gus Malzahn and Plumlee so far this season.
Yeah, that's fair.
When they play Louisville, I mean, they gave that game away. And it was because once, when you start a game, you have that first possession or two totally scripted out. And UCF was running down the field and they were brilliant, looked great. Then they couldn't do anything. If the offense is able to muster a field goal, they win the game and are unable completely to do that. Plumlee, ironically, who felt like best off script at Ole Miss when he was playing there, was unable to produce anything. SMU's going to be able to. This is probably the best offense. I know Malik Cunningham's probably the most dynamic player UCF will play all season, but this is the best all-around offense I think UCF has played this entire year. SMU's already battle-tested. Nothing UCF's offense throws at them after Maryland and TCU will be a huge challenge compared to what they've already seen. I still believe in the Mustangs this year in the American. I think they beat UCF and get back on track.
All right. There's finally a disagreement between us. We took us 7 picks to get there. Texas A&M travels to Mississippi State. I know, and I agree with you. I don't think Texas A&M is a real team. But I'm impressed with Jimbo Fisher to even get them. I know it hasn't been pretty, but they're 3-1. This season could have just turned into an absolute disaster following that win against App State. I know they had 2 Mississippi State. I think the Aggies are going to find a way to get this done. I don't think they're very good.
They're so bad.
But I think they find a way to get it done, even with losing their top wide receiver. I think the defense is good, and that's going to keep them in it. From there, we'll see. And I just don't
Jimbo's over.
I don't know. I just don't trust Mike Leach's system in the SEC. I just don't think it works. But anyway.
Jimbo's over there doing his taxes on the sideline with the gigantic.
Yeah.
No, Mississippi State wins this game. This might just be my frustration and anger at. Honestly, Texas A&M should have lost to the Miami team that lost to Middle Tennessee.
Yep.
They should have lost to Arkansas. We do talk about their defense, and their defense is good, but you can run on this defense. and Arkansas did run. They outgained them still significantly. If Mississippi State's offense gets going with Will Rogers, can A&M keep up? I don't think they can, especially after losing what's their best wide receiver, Smith. So
Yeah.
I'm going with Mississippi State. I think the Bulldogs win this game. They are 1-point favorites at home.
Yeah, they are at home, and I'll give them that. I just don't think, I don't know. We were talking about real and fake teams on the podcast. I would call Mississippi State fake. Nothing against them.
I call them both fake.
Well,
they're
yes.
both.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Pac-12 again, not after dark. By the way, I said Washington State beats Oregon after dark, and I'm convinced of that based on how that game went. The only reason Oregon survived is because that was during the daylight. That's just how it works.
That was a very after dark type of game.
It was.
Still, though.
Yeah.
And I think it might have just been based on the filter Fox put on the. Did that game just look super dark to anyone else? Like the filter
it's
that
one of
they
those I
put
gotta
on
go
it,
back and watch, but
it looked just gray. The whole thing, and I guess it's in Pullman, Washington, but it looked.
That might be why.
The whole thing just looks so gray.
Yeah,
I think they just put the Pac-12 After Dark filter on the game.
Probably. They return to home where they're taking on California. I do expect the Cougars to get a bit of a revenge loss avenge their loss against California, a California team that, although they are 3-1, not a great team.
Yeah, Wazoo, they bounce back. It's a well-coached team. They just imploded at the end. It's what first-year head coaches with young teams, it happens, unfortunately, especially in college. You'll have a couple of those games this year where you're like, how did we lose that game? It happens. Yeah. They're much better than Cal. I like the Washington State team. They showed a lot last week and in the game against Wisconsin on the road.
Yeah. All right, that takes us to the final pick, and I already know what you're picking. NC State travels to Clemson. I've got Clemson. DJ looked better. I think he's not going to look that good against NC State, a much better defense than Wake Forest. But the confidence that he finally got from playing his best after just so much criticism, a lot of it deserved for how he played. I think that confidence at home, the nation's longest winning streak, the fact that NC State beat Clemson last year, I think it's working in Clemson's favor. I've not been sold on NC State's offense, and that's even moving past their game against East Carolina, a game that they should have lost. And I want to be sold on North Carolina State. I'm just not. I think Clemson wins this, and I think there's an opportunity for them to win it by 2 scores.
This has been the game circled for NC State the whole year, and I would almost ascribe that early season struggles to, in a way.
Yeah.
This has been the game that they've been overly focused on the entire season. Since that East Carolina win, that you are absolutely right, should have lost for sure. They've looked increasingly better. That defense shut down a Texas Tech offense that has been wildly potent. I expect this to be a low-score slugfest, honestly, at night in Clemson. Don't be surprised if this is a low-scoring game, some turnovers from both teams. It's really going to be, we're going to talk about DJ and Leary. It's going to be about which team can run the ball, Will Shipley, and then you have those pack of running backs at NC State that you really go 3 deep with. Whoever is able to establish the run, do well on first down, avoid long, 3rd and long, will win the game. They will win the game because there will be turnovers on 3rd and long from both quarterbacks if they are put in that position to do so. Both quarterbacks are more than capable of losing this game. Probably more capable of losing this game for your team than winning the game for your team. I would say probably of both quarterbacks. Both defenses are ball hawking. They're very talented, very good teams. Field goals win the game. Don't go for it on 4th down in this game. Take your points. Stay alive. I think the Wolfpack find a way to win this game, and I have them in my playoffs, so I have to stick to my guns a little bit here.
I respect that.
If you lose this game, it's pretty much done because you're not going to win the division. So I'm going with the Wolfpack.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you talked about it, and I think you're right. The biggest advantage will be who can run the football. I just have more faith in Will Shipley than I do from North Carolina State. Now, if Zonovan Knight's still with the Wolfpack, I'm like, okay. Like he was last year. He's not. So I like Clemson, but I'd love to be wrong, quite frankly. Definitely pulling for NC State for that road upset, of course, the side of College game day. All right, so those are our picks. Unfortunately, in addition to not doing as well in your overall picks, the best bets took it on the chin.
Yeah, real bad.
So you, again, if you keep up with this show, you know that we bet Monopoly money, so we're saving up for Boardwalk, but we did not. We went to jail or something along the lines of whatever you want to talk about a Monopoly. So I'll let you break it down, and I'll let you I'll let you get into what your best bets are for week 5.
Yeah, pulled one of those bankruptcy cards out of the stack this week. So real rough. So we went 1-4 this week. Easily the worst week. First losing week. So that's rough. That's really bad. So first one I got wrong. Penn State 26-point favorite did not cover at home against Central Michigan. That was actually probably my most shockingly wrong one of the day. They were tied 14-14 almost at halftime in this one. Penn State just got out to an early lead, coasted a little too early. Chippewas can score some points.
They can run the ball and hang on to it, which is part of it too. Yeah.
Yes. The one I did get right, it was Arkansas only lost by 2. And it was a 2.5-point line. So despite my anger in losing the game, they do cover technically, losing to A&M. So, and then Rutgers, I was surprised by how many points were scored in this game. 7.5-point dogs. They lose to Iowa by 17 at home. That game just got out of hand too quickly by the offense's mistakes. 2 defensive touchdowns in the first half for Iowa. Just too big of a hole for Rutgers to climb out of. Iowa played keep away afterwards, and not a chance for the Scarlet Knights. Kansas, 9-point favorite at home against Duke. They win by 8. A lot of near misses this week. A lot of near misses.
A lot of balls off the top of the upright this week.
Yes, very tight. Really expected Kansas's offense to be explosive. They were, but Duke was able to just hang around in the shadows for long enough in this game to get the cover. And then Tennessee really probably should have covered against Florida. Some bad game management, you could say, at the end, playing some prevent defense. They are 11-point favorites, which honestly, again, was a shockingly high number, but I still swallowed the points. They only win by 5. Really should have won by a little bit more in that game. I was worried they might just lose straight up, though, there at the end. So there you go. That's how we did last week. So we're 7-10-1 now. But we're going to bounce back this week. We're going to bounce back, and that's because we're picking more than 5. So I'll go rapid fire.
Oh, my gosh.
First one, Army. I know their record is bad. They're a much better team than that record. They're a 7.5-point favorite against Georgia State. Georgia State's one of the only teams in the country who still hasn't won a game yet, 0-4. Army covers 7.5. Oklahoma State is a 1.5-point dog against Baylor. I'm going with the Cowboys winning outright. I don't have a problem with that because I think they might even cover if you gave them, if they were your favorite. So I'm going with Oklahoma State in that. I'm going with Penn State again. Hopefully they don't let me down. They are a bigger favorite this week against Northwestern than they were against, almost the same as they were against Central Michigan last week. Tells you all you need to know about Northwestern this year. I'm going with Penn State to cover.
Oh my.
The 24.5. Northwestern
that's risky business there.
Is that bad. Northwestern
the defense
is
isn't that bad.
They're awful. That they are terrible. Penn State's going to cover 24.5. And then this is actually the riskiest one in my mind. LSU, 7.5-point favorite. They're going to cover against Auburn. Oh. Nothing weird ever happens in LSU Auburn, especially with the incoming hurricane.
Yeah.
What could go wrong? So we're going to go with it. You know, this is all about entertainment. We're going to go with LSU. They're not only going to beat Auburn, they're going to cover. Oh, and then we got USC, giant cover, 24-point favorite against Arizona State. They got them because Arizona State is awful. They are terrible. You have administrators sabotaging their own players and program. I don't think they believe in them. USC survives Corvallis last week. I think the offense had such a rough time. They're going to bounce back. I think they just blitz the Sun Devils in this game, take out some frustration, clean some things up from last week. Texas, they will also bounce back. 10-point favorite against West Virginia. They bounce back. Quinn Ewers might even play in this game, especially if Quinn plays. I really like the Longhorns to bounce back in this one. West Virginia's feeling a little bit better after beating Virginia Tech. Texas is going to be frustrated. I still trust the process, believe in Sark and that regime. I think Texas fixes things. They win by more than 10. And then in light of that, this is really a bounce back week. Some of those favorites who lost or just barely won. Georgia is only a 28-point favorite against a really bad Missouri team who lost that game twice in the worst possible ways. You thought he fumbled because the ball got knocked out at the goal line. He just dropped it. They missed, I believe it was a 25-yard field goal.
Basically an extra
Either
point.
one, either one of them wins the game. Auburn didn't even win the game. Missouri purely lost it. But those teams are both awful.
Yeah.
Georgia is going to have hell at week in practice this week. They're going to cover against a bad Missouri team. I know it's on the road, but Missouri fans know they're bad. It won't be a hostile environment. Georgia covers a lot of big point spreads this week. We're swinging big to get back on the right track.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck to you. I hope you're one step closer to boardwalk or whatever space you're trying to have enough money for. Yeah, we'll see.
Would you like the Sickos game of the week?
Oh, please.
Okay. We're getting to the point of the year where we're starting to figure out who's bad in the MAC. And so we got some great MACtion with the Sickos, the terrible teams in the bottom 25 of the FBS. So we got Bowling Green going to Akron. Bowling Green's a 6-point favorite. I agree. Akron is perennially in the bottom 10. So Bowling Green, awesome. UTEP at Charlotte. There is not a point spread published for this game yet on ESPN. Gotta love that. So that's your ultimate kind of Sickos type of game. UTEP, great win against Boise State.
Yes.
I think they keep it going. They had a good year last year, and it was disappointing to start the year 1-3. Beating Boise State, I think, will right the ship. Charlotte's real bad, even if it's at Charlotte. UTEP will win that. And then we have another great game featuring New Mexico State hosting again. They're wonderful hosts for all these terrible, terrible games. And they're hosting Florida International this week. How bad is Florida International?
Very, very bad.
If the Aggies are 14.5-point favorites. So, Aaron, you mentioned Florida International lost by what score to Western Kentucky?
72-0 was the final there, I believe.
72-0. So now Western Kentucky ain't bad, but they're not that good. So those are your, you really just want to watch some wonderful football. Tune into those games.
Yes. I'm trying to real quick see if I can just find, I probably should throw some bets in there every once in a while. I'm trying to see if there's anything that jumps off the page. I think BYU could actually cover against Utah State. That's a Friday night game.
I thought about that one.
That's a big line. Here, Washington UCLA is intriguing because if you believe that UCLA is not that good, game. And and Washington's 3.5 point. I mean, I don't know. I'm not taking that one, but
I wouldn't. That was one of the games that's not on Pick'em. That's definitely a key game. They're both undefeated.
Yep.
We don't know as much about Washington, I think, as we did. Now that Michigan State's not good, I think Washington's certainly a good team. They passed the eye test. It's just because they took care of business after that huge win. It's hard to come back. They took care of Stanford easily. That's great to see. 2.5-point favorite on the road at UCLA. Is it really even on the road? Washington might have just as many fans as UCLA. And then the other Pac-12 game that also isn't mentioned on Pick'em, Oregon State at Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Utah's a 12-point favorite. And it's all about how the Beavers bounce back. But 12's a big line for me in that game. I think that's going to be another defensive slugfest this week. And do you give Arkansas any chance this week, Aaron? 16.5-point dogs at home. Any chance? What percentage?
I'm going to say
chance?
2%.
2%. Okay. I'll give him.
Isn't that KJ Jefferson's number is 2? Is that right? He's whatever. He's the 2%. Like if he can just miraculously put, and I don't think he's going to be able to. Isn't that Burks? No. I mean, they figured out a way to make it competitive last year. I just don't see it. A sneaky bet that I would make is Northern Illinois covers at Ball State. They're only 3.5-point favorites. If people aren't paying attention, looking only at records, they think, oh, this is going to be an interesting close game. Based on what I've watched, it should not be. Northern Illinois should take care of business there.
Should.
They will be one of the better MAC teams. I know the record doesn't show that, but again, they tough non-conference schedule. That's true of Ball State as well, but I would probably take Northern Illinois there. But anyways.
This is your yearly reminder that don't look at MAC or Sun Belt or Conference USA
That's
team
true.
records and determine right now whether they're good or not.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with it. Most of them have played 2 Power 5 schools to earn some cash.
Yep.
It doesn't mean they're a bad team. If they're even 1-3 right now, they actually could be a really, really solid team.
Yeah.
Look and see if they were competitive in those games.
Miami, Ohio versus Buffalo is also just a pick 'em at one point. I'm taking the Redhawks. I know we've covered them twice, so I'm a little bit biased, but they beat Northwestern, and I know Northwestern's not good, but the defense has showed up for that team. Buffalo's not very good. Miami was going to win, and by winning,
You think
they're going to
there's
win
a letdown?
by more than one. I don't think there will be. I think they figure things out. Travel's a little rough. You go to Chicago one week and Buffalo the next, but
yeah,
I like the Redhawks in that game.
Being a pick 'em, I think that's a good bet.
Yeah.
If they were needing to cover anything, I would hesitate. But the fact that it's a pick 'em, being a pick 'em, yeah, absolutely, you're right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So there's my 2 cents. So, anyways, all right, I think that wraps up this kind of pick 'em picks. Everything else, any kind of last thoughts as we head into week 5? We head into October football.
Yeah, I mean, on the podcast mentioning ranked Kansas, you guys are not watching the games. You being AP voters, please actually watch the games. USC is legit.
Yep.
They're a legit contender. Winner of them and Utah, assuming Utah survives Oregon State, is the Pac-12's best hope. Heisman's still wide open and ready for somebody to seize the reins. You got upstarts like Hendon Hooker, Michael Penix jumping in there, Spencer Sanders, Blake Corum. You got even Mo Ibrahim. All of these guys are still in play to take out Stroud and Young there at the top. So Heisman season's really going to start ramping up as teams' schedules get tougher and they have opportunities to actually showcase their skills against real opposition and real talent. So I'm also really excited to get to see these quarterbacks and star players have those opportunities to have their Heisman moments.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be good. I mean, you talked about that. It seems like he's the clear favorite now. I know it's early, but goodness. And Ohio State's doing this, and I know we're a little bit biased as Buckeye fans, but I think we actually do a decent job of being realistic about this team. And if anything, maybe we're too harsh against our own team. They did that without maybe the best wide receiver in college football. Like, that offense is scary. Maybe the defense isn't quite where you'd want them to be. And I kind of said that going in. I thought it was going to take maybe a year or two for Jim Knowles to really solidify that defense. And they've already been vastly improved. But that offense, and I know people from the South are going to say, nah, it's Alabama and Georgia. It's not even close. With that offense, it's going to be close, at least until Alabama can figure out their offense. And I think Georgia is going to be fantastic. They look amazing, but they showed you against Kent State that, they're capable of having an off day. They're not perfect. No college football team is, and that's the beauty of the sport. So agreed. And Blake Corum, I mean, if he rushes for 150 yards against Iowa in that defense, then you gotta put him in the conversation just based on the stats alone and what he's done. And he's already there right now. So, all right. Well, we're looking forward to it. Make sure you follow us on social media where we're going to be covering all these games. We'll have our top 25 out. We'll have our Heisman list out. We'll have our NFL power rankings out. We'll have it all and a little bit more. So hit us up there, and we'll see you guys next week. Johnny, thanks for recording.
Later, guys.